right there in the backstage. So we're going to give some music, give some time everybody to get on. I'm going to check and see what is going on in the chat. And then I will introduce all the panelists one by one. All right, guys. So we're going to get started.
Can I sniff it? Yes, you can. 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 Well, you go on. Can I sniff it? To all the people who like frags like Charm City does. Made this track so you really know what live was. Come together over fragrances. That's the why, cuz getting love and support from the vibers. Put your sense of the day in the chat, cuz no wrong sense where whatever and for just because. Positivity and love with a live hug. A life full of fragrance is what I love. Finding hidden gems from Dior to Roja Dove. Negativity and fighting is what we're above. Try to diss, we throw up the hand with a big shrug. Like a card of positives, it's a plus love. If you wanna cause drama, we won't even think of us. The connoisseurs fly high like a dove. Can I sniff it? Yes, you can. 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 Can I sniff it? Yes, you can.
All right. What's up, everybody? Again, clone versus original, the great debate. Definitely, it is a polarizing topic. I've gotten a lot of DMs from the last couple of days, people on Team Clone, people on Team Original, and everybody's throwing heat for me to be the moderator, but have a slant one way or the other. No, it's polarizing, but I think we got the right crew to debate it. Hopefully, everybody in the chat can be respectful. We got moderators. I don't think anybody's going to go out. I know that this is a topic that everybody talks about. When I make a clone video, I get Team Original ask me why I made a clone video. When I make an original video, a lot of times Team Clone is asking me what's the best clone that will simulate that actual fragrance. So we have started this debate. Basically, I had invited the Seaad Saint and the Novice Nose to get on a live back in late October, early November. And at that time, I had some personal issues with my mother-in-law passing that kind of delayed it. And I got back in touch with Seaad Saint and Novice Nose in the new year. So we got them on, we started it. It was such a lively discussion in the start of it. I knew we had to have a part two, and we ended up adding some other people. I'd watched the Scent Bubble, and I've watched him definitely on replay because he's late in the night, and I'm an early to bed, early to rise kind of person. But he talks about some of his experiences with inspiration fragrances and what the difference are between some of the originals, and so that was interesting. Wanted to bring him on. We also got Suits, who is basically all original fragrances, and then we have a mix of a few that are in between, especially like Fat Boy Finesse, who says he is Team Fragrance, not Team Clone or Team Original. So we're gonna get into it. I think it's gonna be a great debate. Can we fit this all in one live? We'll see. But jumping into who's in the chat, of course, Joel, my man, in the chat first with the Reefer Cock. And I thought that was a baby cat. But I see you saying it's a Whittier YXL Tuxedo. But hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. And then I see that you also say that you just got in some originals and that is also one of the things that you are Team Fragrance. So yes, everyone, please hit the like button. Thank you. I think we're gonna have a great time. Also, Miss Alicia, always good to have you. Welcome. And we will go down, of course, Nate the Great family, actual family. That's my boy right there. Welcome, Nate. Mr. Attack of the Colognes, he has a channel as well. I know that he is checking in and he is YouTubing it. So if you actually look him up, Attack of the Colognes, great guy. We got Seaad saying what's up. from there. And we have Ragnar Labrock. That sounds like it's coming from Norse, but welcome, sir. Good to see you. All right. We got Nate saying that he's a no clone policy. I beg to differ, sir, but we will talk about that later. We got Six Moss, my man. Welcome, sir. Scent Bubble, actually saying what up to everybody. There we have Dan Not the Man. Welcome, sir. Got Stephen H. We got Kix Griffey Jr. in the building. Welcome, sir. Yak Mob. All right. And we got Dutch. Now he's been working out with Cedric Borzay. We have Dame, my man. And my man Boxing Scent. Welcome, sir. So we have a long way to go, but I think I've gotten most of the people. My man Red Spence, always a pleasure. We got Centrally Explicit. Welcome, sir. And I am going to try to bring this to the bottom because I got a lot of people. Mr. BT Sense, we are going to have to do something with an Alexandria show or something. You got to come on live. We got to hook up and get everything together for live. Let's see. Again, we got Finesse saying what's up to everybody as well. Chad Nemesic, welcome, sir. Lamal Elixir and the Kingdom Mix. All right. You play both sides. Pause. But that's your team fragrance. I understand. JB, any advice on deodorant when wearing fragrance? We will get into that. My main advice would be try to get a deodorant that's as neutral as possible when wearing a fragrance, or get into something that is complementary to the fragrance. All right. I believe Mr. Rock Boy T in the building saying, what's up, Ness? We got people streaming on a lot of different platforms. So if I miss anybody, please, it wasn't intentional, but I want to get everybody up. We are going to start. We're going to start with some of the people that were on the last live. I will start with my man Meech, the Sea Saint. And the Sea Saint is dedicated to all things fragrances. Welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Hey, Charm. What's up? Thanks for having me again. What's up, everybody in the chat? Yeah, man, I'm excited to be here. I was looking forward to this since you hit me up and asked me about it. So definitely honored to be here. Of course, to talk all things fragrance. So I'm excited about the opportunity.
There you go. There you go. It has been lit. Next, we are going to bring to the stage the Novice Knows, fragrance content and other randomness. Welcome, sir.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pothounds and scallywags. It's good to be here, man. I am excited about the conversation tonight, man. I've been waiting on it since you talked about it on our last live, man.
Nice. And every time I think about it, I think about that deep, you got that deep voice, like you got a voice like you should be doing television or radio or something like that.
Oh yeah, hey, look, if anybody wants to hire me, man, I got cheap rates,
Got it. Now, we are going to bring to the stage some of the new people the first time on the channel and alive, and I want to present to everybody the Scent Bubble. For Scent Bubble is presenting to YouTube his fragrance journey. Fragrances spark conversations, change the environment, and create nostalgia. Mr. Scent Bubble, welcome to the stage.
What's going on, guys? Hey, this is the Scent Bubble. I'm 36, hailing from Phoenix, Arizona. Been in the space for quite some time. Went public with the content and everything as of recently. Probably just in the last 6 months, I've really been going crazy online, just sharing my journey through fragrance and resourcing everybody out with everything that I've learned along the way. I'm a big fragrance head, and I'm definitely excited to butt heads with everybody and really just share more perspective in the space. I feel like there's so much room for more experiences to be shared so that everybody can get their own fragrance journey going and enliven that experience as much as humanly possible, because we all love fragrance. And now we got to just tell y'all why, so y'all can find more new, interesting ways to investigate it and really have a good time with it. So that's what I'm here for.
All right. All right. And we're still waiting on one more person, but I do need to introduce your favorite fat boy, showing you how to finesse fragrance, fashion, food, fun, and a whole lot more. Finesse in the building.
Party people, what's good? First of all, I just want to say, I feel a little intimidated by Novice Nose's audio right now. Sound like he was doing a narration of like the book of Genesis or something. That joint is crazy, my guy. So
I told you.
shout out
in the
to
beginning.
you. But
Right, in the beginning.
James Earl Jones out here. But yeah, if you don't know who I am, you know what I'm saying? I'm your favorite fat boy. I'm your cousin. I'm team fragrance all the way. I just, I'll go ahead and put my disclaimer out there. There will be no clone slander, no niche slander, no designer slander tonight. So let's just set that straight. And I'm looking forward, to the conversation.
Welcome, everybody. We are going to get started. We do not have Suits in yet, but hopefully he should get on in just a second. Let me check my phone and see if I have a message from him. Make sure that he's got everything he needs. Oh, he's saying send it to his email. All right. Hold on one second. I am sorry, guys. Hey, let's start with a question while I send this to him. The introduction is, why do people love fragrances, and what role do you think the fragrances play in personal identity?
Go ahead, Barry White. Take it away.
Well, here's the thing, man. As another fat boy in the game, I ended up, kind of coming into fragrance, man, at an early age, man. It was kind of an augmentation of my swag, you use anything you can, but that was kind of what started the journey. But what kept me in the journey was being able to experience artistry, to be able to experience the vibe that different fragrances gave me, the feeling that different fragrances gave me. First time that I smelled Imagination, it was like, oh, wait a minute. This thing then got my swagger up. Same thing with the fragrance like Carlisle. I remember, going through some things when I got first introduced into Black Phantom and really being so in love with the depth of that thing, man, and the art that's, I just kind of fell in love with the art of it, man. And I think that's what kind of keeps me coming back to it. There's a reason why, I'm sniffing 6, 7, 8 bottles when I'm coming in here just getting ready for work in the morning. And it's literally because, just being able to appreciate the individual artistry of each particular fragrance that actually gets put into my space, that's what really keeps me going with it, man. And I can't foresee myself having a day or interaction without having some sort of fragrance, gracing my body,
Nice. Come on, Meech. Come on with it.
I would say that's good stuff, man. I don't know if I should follow that. I'm gonna make it plain, man. Girls. No, I'm just playing. But no, but I mean, initially, if we keep it at a buck, that's why, you first of all, you want to smell good, right? You want your overall, to what Gator said, it's kind of like a personification of like your overall, like swag, the whole presentation. If the fit not right and the fragrance not right, I just don't feel right. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about, presentation. It's about confidence. It's about, just overall smelling good and just the feeling that gives you. FragCom has definitely opened my eyes to you know, so many other different scent profiles and DNAs that I never imagined that I would ever, you know, ever get to experience. So I'm appreciative of, you know, everybody who has contributed to that, from content creators to friends who put me on to different fragrances, so on and so forth. So, you know, really it's just a, you know, these days, the fragrance that I wear is a, you know, kind of an embodiment of who I am, and you know, my personality and swag and everything that comes with that.
All right, all right. Now, before we go any further, we have in the building the inventor of the term gorgeousness. Made a new way for saying Diaghilev. And definitely you have to say he is the inventor and the original bedroom gangster. If you have any doubt, and you can ask Suits, have you smelled it? He'll say, nah, I got it. We got Suits and Sense in the building. Welcome, sir.
What's good, everybody? Apologize for my tardiness. Just getting up in here. How's everyone?
We're
Good,
doing
good,
all right.
good.
All right.
That's good.
So, just to get started and understand that this will be a lively chat, and I'm going to try to be more moderator than debater, but however, because I'm going to try to keep up with everything. But understand that, of course, this is the difference between why we have clones, why we have originals, and there's been a lot of talk around Fragcom, and the one thing I can say is that clones have gotten better and better. And also the point is that clones definitely are here to stay. And that's one thing that it seems like they're not going anywhere. Now, the question is of what everybody thinks about clones, how we're going to get into the questions, and how we're going to go through it. Again, I think we got a great panel to talk about it. We can all stay respectful, because I want to be all about a good debate. Let's just put it like that. I'm not going to go one way or the other, and we're going to see how it goes. So we talked about a little bit, and we had two people, and we're going to try to go around the room. Why do people love fragrances? What I want to get from everybody now is, and we'll start with Suits. How do you define an original fragrance versus a clone fragrance?
I can't speak too much on clones. I mean, I can only speak on originals. I don't have any clones, so I can't define what a clone as far as price point. But as far as the DNA of it, I can't speak on it. I don't know anything, or I know people, you know, it's getting a lot of hype. So I'm trying to investigate what's the hype about, as far as how can a clone cost $17 and the original cost $350.
All right. Oh, wait, you're getting a little ahead of yourself. We started
just
the debate
saying.
already.
Hey, you asked me. I mean, nothing against clones. Nothing against clones. Just out of curiosity, you know.
Got it.
I can't really speak on clones.
All right. Let's go over the scent bubble. What's your definition of original fragrance versus your definition of clone fragrance?
I'm gonna keep it super simple. I think we all know what an original fragrance is. You know what I mean? It's an original creation, from the formulation to the art to the packaging to the messaging and story behind it. Everything from top to bottom is original. I think to some degree, everything is inspired by. It all falls under that type of umbrella. You can't start with nothing and make something. So in that regard, I think original fragrances do draw from inspiration, but it's more finessed, it's more thoughtful, and the intent is to make something new that hasn't been done before. Clones, I think, are pretty obvious. I think clones fall on a spectrum, which is why we have clone, dupe, inspired, hybrid, twist, remix, you know, bop it, twist it, pull it. You know what I'm saying? So it gets a little bit murky when we say clone, because I think we all know what a clone is, but what we're broadly talking about is kind of an umbrella of a bunch of different fragrances that kind of get thrown into that category, but there is a lot of nuance to be had. But I think in essence, a clone is simply a fragrance that sees another fragrance and tries to duplicate it and sell it at lower cost by cutting corners in some shape or fashion, whether it's art, whether it's formulation, whether it's supply and demand issues. So where it's manufactured can be done quicker or faster or snappier. Now, where the juiciness is in the debate is what stuff actually drops off in quality or performance or efficiency or you know, so that's that. But
you're jumping
yeah,
us too far ahead.
no, that's okay. I just wanted to make the distinction that when we say clone, the definition we use to define clone won't necessarily define a lot of the stuff we'll be talking about today, because the other stuff is often on the spectrum.
There is, and the wording that we can say is inspiration, but you know, the main term that everybody says is clone for it. Real quick, I know we have 114 people in, and that is a personal best for my channel. 116 just went up. But definitely make sure that everybody, you know, subscribe to everybody, please. All the people on the panel. This is a great panel of people coming together. We are up to 119. So definitely wanted to do that. Finesse, what's your, if there's anything you want to add to it, what's your take on it?
I would just say original is whoever did it first. I mean, like, we limited the fragrances, but it's kind of with everything. I mean, this is a conversation that we have in every industry. Clone, inspired by, cover, remix, rendition, dupe, whatever you want to call it, impersonation, you know, as some people would say out there. We're talking about a fragrance with the intention of offering, I say, at least 80 to 90% of the experience of the original. So I don't think it's deep. You know what I'm saying? I love what Scent Bubble said. But I don't think I think to Fragcom is deep. To the fragrance industry, I don't think they really care. You know, because, you know, people are gonna buy what they want to buy, you know, but I'm gonna save the rest of, you know what I'm saying, my objective, subjective opinion as we continue in the conversation.
Okay, so one thing I do want to bring out before we get to the next question is, speaking of inspirations, there are some well-established houses that have created some clones or inspirations of some cheaper houses. Now, I know Creed is a very well-established, expensive house, but they took a fragrance from Mont Blanc when they did, I believe it's the original Santal. So Mont Blanc did it first, and then Creed did it second. So
Individual, Mont Blanc Individual.
Yep, Mont Blanc Individual. And that was Creed's original Santal, right?
Correct. That's right. Yep, you're right.
That was. So there can be some greatness, and I want to ask about that. And we're gonna start with Suits, because there can be some greatness in that sometimes, because even bigger houses, and I joke sometimes and I say that Boadicea is the most expensive clone house because they have a lot of inspirations that come from other fragrances. So Suits, what do you think about that part of it?
I mean, that's a true statement. I'll give you that. But when it comes to originals, that's something I know I can trust. Now, I understand some have been, as far as Mont Blanc, I don't consider that a clone house. I just consider that a, you know, high fashion designer. You know, they have good fragrances. But me personally, I got original Santal over that fragrance. I was introduced to original Santal first, so that's what I went with. Most people probably was introduced to the Mont Blanc one first, to according to price point, you know. So you go with what you can get. If it still smell the same and it still smell good, then get it. I went with original Santal.
Teresa's trying to say, so you might own some dupes then.
Who, me?
Dupe alert.
Me? Yeah, but it still got the Creed symbol on it, though.
All right. So I want to ask, and we'll go to the Gator. What do you think are some misconceptions about clone fragrances?
The first misconception about clone fragrances is that all of them are cheap. All of them have cheap materials that are being used. That the aroma chemicals are gonna break you out if you wear them, if you put them on too much. That you said something a little while ago, Charm, that is very, very true. Is that clone fragrances have come a long way. Inspired buys have come a long way in the last like 5 to 10 years. I smell a fragrance like Liquid Broom. And I'm sitting there like, why would I even invest in Altair if it gets that close to Liquid Broom? It's not like that with every fragrance, but the fragrance game those clones have gotten so much better over the years, man, that I feel like those clones do have a good bit of utility now, man. And so when I look at having to choose between one or the other, my decision has become a lot more difficult than it used to be. But yeah, I am very much on the side of wear what you want to wear, but you can't deny that clones have gotten better at this point.
That is true. That is true. Clones have gotten better. Let me that is definitely a misconception, and I can say that clones have gotten better. It's back in the day, it was more miss than hit, and Liquid Broom was one that I would talk about that actually surprised me at how well it smelled in the air. That in the air, Liquid Broom was almost indistinguishable from the Altair. Now, if I put it directly up to my nose, I could tell the difference. I could tell the richness and the difference, but yeah. I have both. And I can definitely say that the clone game is coming up, and they are kind of doing their own thing, and they're coming up and they're doing a lot more than before. Really quick, before I get into the next question, I'll ask anybody else if they have any common misconceptions. One misconception that I wanted to talk about, because I actually did a lot of research now into how clone fragrances are made. One day soon, I'm actually going to put a video out on it. But people are involved in clone fragrance making. So they take the original fragrance, they put it through a gas spectrometer that actually measures the information for it. And once it comes up, it spits out a formula, then people start putting that together and smelling it and seeing how it actually resembles. And then they add their own things to it. That's how sometimes you get a twist and things like that. So it's not just the computer doing it or AI doing it. AI has gotten better with the formulation, but people are involved. And a lot of times you'll get an inspiration or a twist because there are perfumers, maybe not the exact ones that but there are perfumers actually adding to that formula and trying to make it better, trying to make it last longer. So one misconception is that it's really just only a computer doing something. So I did find that out in my research, and I wanted to talk about that.
Can I chime in for half a second?
Come on.
I think another misconception is that when we say the word niche designer clone, because we don't have a face to put to it, we make big assumptions about the boost in or lack of quality. We were just talking about this the other day with like the perfumer for Issey Miyake, how he worked in LV. So a lot of times you have these niche perfumers in niche level houses that step into other brand names, and due to the hierarchy of where they fall, you might prejudge the fragrance's perfumer behind it because you're not looking at the perfumer, you're looking at the name and making an assumption about quality control. So that's another thing, is just that name is associated with every single fragrance down the line being better than other, or that if you're in a retail store that somehow you're dealing with a perfumer that's more off the streets and not been a trained nose or perfumer in the space. So yeah, and also just right before you went into this subject, I just want to say we strolled over it so fast, but it really is a big point. Just the fact that many designer fragrances and niche houses and all that stuff do clone and make inspiration fragrances, but they get an automatic pass because it's under the brand name. When you talk about Imagination DNA, Elysium DNA, Aventus DNA, Silver Mountain Water DNA, Angel Share DNA, I could just make a Chinese scroll of it. You can name designer and niche fragrances that are clearly going after those, but have more clearly changed the bottle presentation and the art and stuff like that. So they don't fall into that category, but the magnifying glass should absolutely be over those fragrances as well. Topic for later, but I just wanted to, y'all rolled through that so fast. And I was like, wait, y'all need to preach, because a lot of us don't view designer fragrances and stuff like that as cloning. We don't say the word they clone such and such. Right. So, but people are chasing other DNAs a lot because a lot of people chase after money. So everything's got to be evaluated. Nobody gets a pass just because they got through the VIP line.
Yeah, and here's another point that we could talk about. You have perfumers sometimes that will go the niche route and then go the designer route, and they'll take the same DNA. Like basically, what are we talking about when we talk about Cool Water? Isn't Cool Water, it's basically the same perfumer that did Green Irish Street, right? And so that was basically him getting that same type of scent DNA, but getting it in a more mainstream type of way. Yeah, come on in.
No, I was gonna say I'm glad Scent Bubble said that, because again, I don't want there are a lot of nuances to this conversation, and I doubt we're gonna be able to get through all of them tonight. But we mad at each other, and it's not even our fault. It's like we didn't tell Creed, Bond, or whoever it is to hire this perfumer, and they go over here. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, we want you to recreate the greatness that you did over there. But now it becomes personal, and we get emotional as if we getting a check. You know what I'm saying? Directly from the brand. And I'm like, bro, like, it's like, you heard me talking earlier. You seen me put it on the post. It's like the LeBron Jordan conversation is barbershop talk. Neither Michael Jordan or LeBron James has done anything to benefit me in my life. So I don't have a dog in the fight. I really could care less at the end of the day. I have an opinion based on what I like, but what I'm not going to do, which I think is really the elephant in the room, is that people have issues with what other people spend their money on. And so it goes from just, let's have a respectful conversation about clones and OGs to, why are you checking for what that man's like it gets disrespectful. Like now we get clone snobs, or we get designer snobs, or we get niche. And it's like, yo, like what you like, buy what you buy. And the other thing I wanted to say, and I'm gonna shut up real quick, is all of this is subjective. It's based on like suits. I might be the young. Well, I think Bubba, you said you 36. I'm 37. Like right now, what it sounds like, and I'm no offense to anybody, but the conversation, not on this panel, but the conversation that's going on in Fragcom is a grumpy old man conversation, because this is what it sounds like. we have OGs who are literal OGs who are mad that now the fragrance industry is being dominated by Gen Z and millennials. So that means people from the age of 18 to 44 are really dominating the marketplace as far as spending money. Well, guess what they're being influenced by? Social media. Guess what happens now? When y'all were coming up, and I'm still a millennial. I remember getting, samples in magazines and getting stuff in the mail and all these different types of things. You were influenced by that. Your cousin or your uncle or your father is the one that influenced you to get in the fragrance, and so on and so on and so on. Now it's TikTok. Now it's IG. Now it's YouTube. And it's like we got baby boomers and Generation X, and people are holding on for dear life. Like, nah, you got to get the OG. Who cares? I'm not going to disrespect you because you had to walk to school 10 miles in the snow. That's fine. I respect you. I got respect for you. But I don't. Does that make me lazy? No, because I work hard within the realm that I dealt. Like, I was dealt a hand, and I'm playing the hand that I got. I can't help that y'all had to play a hand a different way. So I'm not going to knock that. So again, because that's what your experience was, you're going to stick along with that. So I'm gonna rock with OGs. I don't need to get a clone. And I love that. That's why I said I don't do clone slander, designer slander, or niche slander. I'm team fragrance. I love all of it, but I don't want the nuances. Like, I don't understand FragCom, and I'm not trying to take it here. This is such a weird place, but it's the same thing as SneakerCom. It's the same thing in fashion. If we're gonna keep it 100, ain't nothing original. Somebody was inspired by the sun and decided to make a fragrance. Like, oh my God, like most fragrance is inspired by food. Like, fragrance is the closest to food and music. You have notes that are pretty much made up of things you can eat or that are edible. You put those things together and they form chords. So I don't want things to get lost in translation where we just kind of sitting on the edge trying to have this Wikipedia type of conversation where it's like, no, just keep it a buck. Like, I respect what you bring to the table. But my guy, it's 20, and I'm gonna talk about y'all in the same period. It's 2025. Like, get over it. It'll be okay. Like, keep buying your OGs. I'm gonna keep buying everything. And we're just going to talk about all of it. And y'all watch your own credit score and your own credit report and your own bank account, and we can all be happy. That's all I got to say.
All I can say to that is you walk in the snow uphill both ways. It's in the snow uphill both ways.
And I think what we're going to find at the end of this conversation is that everybody's going to fall into two categories. Either you're the guy who likes to wear the jersey in the game just to be known for being on that team, but you don't actually play ball. And other people are more interested in playing ball. When we talk fragrance, you need to figure out, are you the guy that really loves this fragrance thing? And if you do, you can hear multiple perspectives and it don't affect, you love it. You love just anything about fragrance. You love getting under the hood and you like playing the game. And then others of you like just having certain names of a few fragrances of bottles on your shelf, and that's how you move. And I think you need to figure out where you stand, because both are absolutely cool. But to people who I think are mature and really enjoy FragCom, these type of conversations don't get us excited about putting on a jersey and feeling like we're a part of some cool team. No, they give us more information so we could take it and flip our own fragrance experience and have a better time than we just had, so.
Okay. So that is definitely one side of it, but that's going to open up to my next question, and I'm going to take it over to Suits. So, Suits, what makes an original fragrance unique just beyond the name and the scent? So I know that you have a plethora of fragrances and all of them are original. So why do you buy original only?
That's what I was introduced to. I didn't know about clones really until watching social media. And it wasn't so that I don't dislike clones. I just didn't know anything about them. So now I'm in my research phase as to finding out. Because I did a video like, am I wasting my money really buying these expensive fragrances when clones could be just as good? But I also trust the original. I'm just saying. Not like, don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on clones, not one bit. Not one bit at all. I just go with, like my man said, you're either in one or the other category. And I'm in the OG category. I mean, I never had to walk to school in snow. But I am. That's how I've always been ever since I was introduced to the game. My first fragrance was a fragrance from Creed that I purchased, and I've been stuck on the OGs, as y'all call them, ever since.
Okay, so there's a couple things that are packed in that, and one, Suits, we're gonna have to get together. I actually have ordered some Alexandria fragrances, and they have said that they have cloned Hot Lux. So I know you have Hot Lux. I was gonna get a sample, but I'm not paying $3,500. I'm not even paying $1,900. You can find it. But I know that since you have it, I'm gonna buy a sample of it. But I also want you to smell that one, and we can do a comparison really just to see. I did also order Amber Oud, which I have. I also ordered Diaghilev, which I have. And I really want to break down what really is the difference as far as the smell and the complexity and the richness and the depth. Because a lot of these houses that are considered clone or inspiration houses are not necessarily using all synthetics. Now, they may be using some synthetics when they don't have the original, but they are using some naturals as well. And we have some higher price clone houses. So I'm trying to play kind of the middle, but just in looking at everything, one thing that I will say that has great quality, and now it got me stepping up. So here we have Dumont, and this is Barouche. They're a higher quality line of Dumont, and this is Perle d'Or. Perle d'Or is exceptional quality. And now this is basically an offshoot of Carlisle. However, this is a fragrance that I can say has great quality, and that they use some higher quality materials, and they're not just making a synthetic concoction. So I wanted to see Meech and Novice Knows. I see you have a fragrance in your hand too. What's your take on how some of these inspiration houses are getting better as far as their quality, their presentation, and things like that?
So I'm going to use Perle d'Or as that example. That since you had it just now, as far as quality wise, this thing is excellent. As far as the feel and the vibe of it, and this was one of my most complimented fragrances a couple of years ago when I first got it. Man, you can't really see the dent in here, but there's a good dent in this bottle. That being said, when people start to kind of associate it to Carlisle, I was like, okay, this is good enough, but then you smell Carlisle and you're like, no, they're different. They're definitely different. So I think it comes down to what do you enjoy about a fragrance? Are you wearing a fragrance for the people around you, or are you wearing that fragrance for yourself? Because I can spray this on and I can walk around somewhere and people will be able to say, oh, that kind of smells like, and most people don't know these fragrance names. I mean, you know how a lot of us, black people are, man. Everything that smells good is Baccarat. You know what I'm saying? When you go places. And y'all know.
We got Lavish Aristocrat over at IG. You are right. It is not exactly the same as Carlisle. I'm just saying that the quality is pretty good. So.
But the quality is great. The quality is great. And that's the thing, is that a lot of these houses, they're using, a lot of niche designers use synthetics too. They may just be higher quality synthetics, but they're synthetics as well. And I think what's happening now, synthetics, this is why I think designer inspirations and clones are so much better than just the niche ones, because they could get access to those higher quality synthetics. That being said, if you get this, I mean, you're not getting anything low quality. You're getting something that's a high quality fragrance. Now, if you're getting it expecting that you're going to spray it on and everybody's going to smell it and think that it's Carlisle, yeah, cool. I mean, that's fine. But it doesn't take away from I don't think it's exact match to it. But at the same time, it doesn't take from the fact that this is high quality material. Vintage Radio, which is a Lattafa fragrance, that's actually a pretty high quality juice, man. When you smell that, you're thinking Initio Paragon And not just in the fact of, oh, it smells like it, but the way it wears, it doesn't feel synthetic. It doesn't feel like it's something that was made in a lab somewhere. So if we have that back and forth, I mean, quality on these is no longer an issue. Well, with a lot of houses, it's no longer an issue.
Yeah. And this line, the Baruch line, it definitely isn't a 1-for-1 match. It is inspiration or a twist to it, because they have one that is basically kind of inspiration or a twist to Angel Share as well. But they're never 1-to-1 matches more than likely in these lines.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make a couple quick points, kind of to piggyback off of Gator, talking about like quality. I think we talked about this a little bit in our last discussion, and bringing up an example of a fragrance like Jasur by Lattafa, which is a clone of Born in Roma Coral Fantasy by Valentino. That fragrance, to me, if you smell that fragrance and you smell Valentino Coral Fantasy side by side, Coral Fantasy actually smells more synthetic to me than Jasur does. Jasur has, in my opinion, even though it's a Lattafa fragrance, the quality of that fragrance is actually, to me, better than the fragrance that is actually duplicating. And then I also wanted to touch on Suit's point about brand recognition. I think we all, in some form or fashion, have brands that we are, loyal to, right? You might only drive Fords. You might, I might only drive Toyotas or whatever it is. But Hez made a point. Hez Benkowski in the chat, he said, if it smells good, then clones will do it. But if it smells unique and you want to discover new things, go for originality. But I actually kind of disagree with that, because if a clone fragrance is duplicating a niche fragrance, that could very well be unique and new to me, right? It could be unique and new, because here's the thing. Fragcom is such a small percentage of the entire world, right? So here's the thing. I'm going to walk outside and somebody's going to say, what are you wearing? And I'm going to say, I'm wearing Initio's Must Therapy. 95% of the people that you talk to have never heard of Initio, maybe even more than 95. Most people are used to wearing the fragrances that they see in department stores. YSL Myself, YSL Y, Dior Sauvage, Baccarat. Most people aren't even familiar with a lot of the niche brands that we love, because we're in this niche space, right? Where we're learning about all of these different brand names. So I say that to Hez's point, that to a lot of people that we come around, even if we're wearing a clone of a PDM fragrance, like the Woods Collection Dusk, one of my favorite clones, it's a clone of Leighton. People are like, man, you smell great. And I'm like, oh, this is a fragrance called Dust by the Woods Collection. I'm like, have you heard of Parfums de Marly Leighton? No, most people haven't. So we're in such a small, this is such a small group of people. It doesn't represent, the entire world, because most people have only really heard of designer fragrance houses for the most part.
Okay, so there's a next question coming up, but when you brought that up about most people don't know some things, and I saw it in the chat, so I wanted to bring it up. A lot of times, people do not admit they are rocking a clone, and instead they are saying that it's the OG. So, what's the thought behind that?
So I'll say, for me personally, if somebody asks me what fragrance, and that, it kind of goes back to the original point I was making. If somebody asks me what fragrance I'm wearing, if I'm wearing Liquid Brune, for example, I'm going to say I'm wearing Liquid Brune, because if I say Altair by Parfums de Marly, they won't know anyway. They won't know they don't know the difference between Liquid Brune or Altair. So it's no need for me to front on what fragrance I'm wearing. I just say the name of the fragrance, because even if I told them the fragrance that is duping, because most of the clone fragrances that I own are clones of niche fragrances. So in most instances, people have never, like I said, people haven't heard of even the niche house. So for me personally, I always say the name of the fragrance I'm wearing. I don't fake the funk. I just say the name of the fragrance.
We gotta get Scent Bubble in here, because I was watching one of your lives and somebody asked that very question, and it seemed that they were saying they say they had the OG. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so for me personally, this is actually pretty funny. I don't care clone or original. I ain't telling you what I'm wearing unless the name is fly. You know what I'm saying? So if I, like, for instance, I'm not going to tell you I'm wearing a Tot Libre Fat Electrician just because it's an original name. I ain't telling you I'm wearing Fat Electrician. Point blank, period. And another funny story to that is, I'll just say, you probably ain't never heard of it, and I'll run over it real fast. But I was at a bowling alley with a couple for my son's birthday party, and my friend of mine, his lady, walked by, and she smelled like Baccarat Rouge, but it wasn't rouging it wasn't all the way rougey. You know what I'm saying? and it was so funny because I just asked her, I said, hey, you wouldn't happen to be wearing Club de Nuit Untold? And then her and her husband just busted out laughing, and they was like, nah, yeah, that's what we're wearing. And it was such a fun, like, conversation starter because they were shocked that I even knew that about that fragrance. And I was shocked that people that aren't in my frag bubble were wearing clones. And so it was just a fun conversation starter, and it was cool to see that she enjoyed enough wearing that. But most people that weren't like me would definitely feel like she was rouging it up. So that's cool too. And I also think, let me tell you something that's incredible for me in my journey, because I just keep it 1,000. Clones are actually the reason I got into designer and niche, period. The clones actually got me excited about, oh, wait, there's this whole other world out there. Oh, there's Neiman's. Oh, there's all these independent designers. I'm meeting people in Fragcom that are like, yo, you should check my man's out in LA. He's working on a fragrance. But I would have never even laddered my way into this space had I not found a clone space, and that sparked an interest in fragrance to realize that there are other fragrances outside of my retail store to get excited about in fragrance. So that's what's unique to my journey, is clones are solely responsible for me even jumping and having such a high appreciation for the niche and designer game, as well as just perfumers in general, like seeing the face behind the fragrance. Because one of my favorite lines of all time, Lalique, she was a niche perfumer before she moved over to Lalique and makes some of the best fragrances, in my personal opinion, out there. So just that investigative mind even started from clones. So that's unique to my story. And I'm proud of that, because it got me to learning more about fragrance and enjoying fragrance with a multi-dimensional lens.
Got it. So I want to go to Finesse now. And I know that you have basically a plethora of range when it comes to it, because you even have things such ultra kind of niche when we get into Argos and things like that. Do you think the craftsmanship and artistry behind an original fragrance justify its price? And then we'll go to the suits after you.
I think it does in 2025 for indie niche companies. I don't think it does for any company that's owned by LVMH. You cannot justify, and we have seen this over and over again. Payless ran this experiment. They changed the name to Palessi. They threw a whole bunch of marketing behind it. They invited all of these high-end people, because one of the things, if you follow me on social media, you've heard me say this: people don't buy products, people buy people. And I see Jim's kind of hinting at that in the chat, because he's talking about, and I see a lot of people saying this, where it's like, it's kind of crazy to compare the two, or don't lie and say something is equal, even if it's inspiration or whatever. And I get that, because a lot of people are lying for the sake of $1. You know what I'm saying? But let's not act like these companies aren't who they are because they took a famous person, or they took a celebrity, or they just took somebody who had influence. and they say, I want you to wear this. I want you to put this on. I want you to drive this car. I want you to wear this fragrance. I want you to take this Dior Sauvage and I'm going to put you in a waterfall and they're going to be wolves behind you. And I want you to wear your shirt open because we know that millions of women are going to love you. And so that's going to convey, if I put that on, I'll be sexy and I'll be like the wolf. And it's marketing. It's all a lie. That's what I'm saying. We keep having this conversation, and I get passionate about this because people don't think for themselves, but we also get upset at the nuances that we don't keep it a buck about. So, like, shout out to Hez, and like, no disrespect to Hez. Hez cannot compete with the manufacturing of a Creed. So the artisan quality that he's gonna put in his fragrances, or in Argos that's gonna put in their fragrances, or City Rhythm or Nazar fragrances, or all of these different independent niche perfumers, we got to separate them from niche because that's a whole different level of getting it out the mud. The Creeds, the Barnes, the Chanels, all the companies owned by Arnold, LVMH, they've had the benefit of doing this 100 years. And so when it comes to resources, access, you can't compete with that. But don't tell me, yo, it cost you $1.50 to make this fragrance and you charging me $400. That's crazy work. But we don't want to talk about that. That's a lot of what's happening. So now when a Lattafa, and it really was Armaf first. Armaf really started this mess with back in 2022 with Club Day in the Week. They started this. Now, Lattafa gets the blame, but it's like, no, Armaf was the one that really started this. So now we see all of these Middle Eastern companies coming to the forefront, and they're saying, no, we're going to take this pay less experiment, and we're going to show y'all that y'all being lied to and that people are pushing more. That's why everybody is using Elixir now, because EDT is not sexy anymore. People no longer want EDPs. Park Straight is not good enough. Now we got people out here. It's a concentration, and it's not even a concentration. It's just a fancy marketing term that JPG, all these other companies are trying to figure out, how do we keep selling? How do we keep making more money? We're not doing anything new and innovative. You know what I'm saying? At this point, they're cloning themselves. Because why? Because there's nothing new under the sun. And they're lazy.
You telling me elixirs aren't different?
The buck. Like
the price.
So let's talk about it. I'm gonna throw this out here real quick. Let's take one of the most popular DNAs over the past couple of years, Lamel Elixir. All right, they just dropped Lamel Elixir Absolute. So the whole thing is, let's add plum to it. You know what I'm saying? Let's just add this one note to it and make it go crazy. And I'm not, I don't know what the sale numbers are. I've seen what the reaction is to it. I've actually ordered a bottle. It'll be here because to me, it is more, is it plum heavy? No. But what they did was they dialed back the honey. They dialed back the tobacco. There's a little bit of that plum nuance, but it makes it more wearable and less cloying throughout the year. Now, you got some of y'all crazy. Y'all will wear Lamel Elixir 90-degree heat. I don't know how you do it, and I know the bees and everybody be cussing y'all out. I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? But this is something I still wouldn't wear it at 90-degree heat, but it makes it more wearable. There are little nuances like that where we're splitting hairs, and you got and that's just with that one particular thing. But we're mad at each other, and not saying literally this conversation, but we get emotional about these things. And I was like, y'all, it's all marketing. It's all branding. And I do want to speak, and I'm going to shut up. I want to speak to Jim's point and everybody that's saying this. Respectfully, to people that's got a problem with folks comparing fragrances, I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to go look at your analytics in YouTube. We was having this conversation backstage. Some of us are hobbyists. Some of us are collectors. Some of us are enthusiasts. Some of us just want to talk with other people about fragrance. And then some of us are content creators. And if people want to talk about clone fragrances, because I'm a creator, I'm an enthusiast, hobbyist, all those other things, but because I'm a creator and because I am literally intentionally at this point in my journey enjoying fragrance behind the scenes, but also trying to grow my channel, guess what I'm going to talk about? Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that, oh, this is equal, this is that. But I'm going to give the clone respect, and I'm going to say like, yo, this is the quality that they're presenting, this, that, and the third. Like it, love it, boom. Or I wouldn't buy that. And I'm going to say, hey, at this point in your journey, it makes more sense to me to buy this, because I saw somebody in the comments say this. I'm not spending a car note on no fragrance. Like, I live in an apartment. It's a nice apartment. It's a gated community. But it's the same mentality I have, and I hate to go here, but I'm not about to have a Bugatti in a trailer park. But some of us got that mentality. But that's subjective because my goals are different. So shout out to the brother in the chat that said him and his wife are buying a house. So I'm buying clones right now because, you know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to spend all that money on fragrance. But again, that's subjective. But these are the layers and the nuance that we don't consider. We just go around like we used to do in middle school, and we pulling up people's shoes, and we be like, ooh, your Jordans is fake. Ooh, you got on fake Timbs. Like, come on, man, grow up. Like,
That jump man's got long legs.
like, come on, fam. Like, it's 2025. I'm not Charms. You a grown man. I'm not checking. I'm suits. Your collection probably worth $500,000 based. I'm not checking for, you know, like, I'm not concerned. Now I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna be like, respectfully, brother. You know what I'm saying? Put me on. You know, show me how you do what you do. Money bag. Show me how you do what you do. Help me level up. Help me get my game up so I can get some of these things. Let's have that conversation. But
You really want to know?
right, but I'm not gonna look at you crazy any more than I want somebody looking. And I just want us to stop judging people. That's the whole problem with this conversation. We can debate, we can have conversations all day, but I just wanted to address the chat because they going crazy, rightfully so. Hit that like button, pay your tithes, drive this up so we can go worldwide. But why are we judging folks because you got on New Balances and you got on J's? And we mad that New Balances used to be corny. When I was in school, nerds wore New Balances.
Couldn't wear them.
Now New Balances cost they like the new Balenciagas. And people are mad, and Jordan people are mad because they're like, oh no. But y'all ain't put out nothing new either. You're just creating retros because you got to a point where you realize, the game is up. And now it's opened up for everybody. So do people still wear J's? J's had a release a couple of weeks ago and some folks got shot over in the mall. It's crazy work out here because some of y'all be out here pewing. You're pewing in the chat. You're pewing. Most of y'all mad at TikTokers and you're taking it out on us. Like, come on, man. Don't get mad at
Hey, let's go to Suits, and I can see I'm on question number 5. And we are more than an hour in.
I just know because we ain't gonna get through this whole conversation, Charm. So I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, it's all good.
He knew.
I really think that we've got to talk through this, and there is a lot of polarization, but there's a couple things that I can definitely say, and we're going to talk about the quality level and things like that. But as far as being a content creator, I can tell you that the clone videos that I do exponentially better as far as views, as far as retention and things like that than the like unique niche fragrance videos that I do. Now, there's a core audience and the family of what I call the fragrance connoisseurs that are looking for that special niche fragrance and are looking for things that not everybody's talking about. But the ones that are in the searches, the ones that are getting the clicks, are going to be the clone fragrances that are cloning popular niche fragrances. And that's just the way it goes. But Suits, I do understand, and we did a live last year because we talked about, I had you on the live when I did it, when I talked about the cost of a fragrance and how that fragrance is. One thing I will say before I ask Suits part of it is, even in a car, the actual cost of a car is so much less than the actual sale price of a car. What they put in and the cost for them to make it is so much less. And there are different things that are being involved. It goes through the original parts makers, then it goes to the distributor that sells actually to the actual manufacturer, and then the manufacturer has to put their markup for putting the assembly together. Then it goes to the actual retail sales store, and they have to pay for their shop, they have to pay for their salesmen and everything like that. And all of that is getting added into the car. And in the fragrances, it's a lot of the same thing. But it is kind of crazy just to think in and of itself that the actual juice in that fragrance is anywhere from $1 to $3 for a fragrance that costs $200 to $300. That is something to think about. And just, is there a lot of parts of that is in the name? Is there a lot of parts of that going through the actual, we got to pay the perfumer, we've got to manufacture it, then we send it to a distributor, then that distributor sends it to a retail, and everybody's putting their markup on it, which inflates the price, even a different thing. But Suits, do you think the craftsmanship and artistry behind an original fragrance would justify its price?
I think it depends on the house. Because, for instance, like you said, Bodicea. Some people say that's a high-priced clone house. I mean, I love Bodicea. You know, I have a few of their fragrances, and they're quite expensive. But they do, like Electimus, they have some fragrances that smell just like Bodicea at a way cheaper price. You know, and I have them too. My thing is, if I have the original, I'm not going to purchase a clone that smells just the same. I'm not going to have two fragrances that are almost identical. I'll just go with my original. So when I'm wearing it, and if someone asks, what is that you wearing? And I tell them, and they don't know, I pull out my phone and let me educate you. Let's talk about it. But then the conversation kind of changes when it rolls around to the price point. You know, a lot of people are scared of the price point. So they ask, well, is there something similar to it? And that is where I'm trying to grow. Like Fat Boy said, to be a content creator, you have to widen your inventory to reach people. And that's why I'm trying to find out more information about clones. Now, I'm not a clone guy. I'm an original guy. But to give people information, I need the product. But on the other hand, I don't want to purchase the same thing if I have the original that smells the same thing. I'm just wasting space.
Okay. Let's go to Gator. What are your thoughts on, is the craftsmanship and artistry behind original fragrance, does that justify the price?
It really, just to follow up on what Fat Boy said, it really does depend on the brand we're talking about, because there are some brands out there, when you mentioned like the LV and some of them, they're not worth it. There's no way that, and I'm going to get into the names of some of those fragrances, but no way that some of those lines are even worth it, man. But with those smaller creators, yeah, I can see it, because they're putting more heart, they're putting more soul into their artwork, man. I've got a fragrance over there that I'm looking at right now that I love, Mezcal Anejo, Kelly and Jones. I know for a fact how much heart and how much soul she puts into each one of those fragrances. And that fragrance should get a whole lot more hype than it does. She's charging, $150, $170, for that fragrance. But that's because she's putting literally her heart and soul into every drop. She's mixing those vats handmade. Everything's, the labels are being put on handmade. I think a company like Argos that they make their bottles are hand painted. Those types of scenarios. It's worth it then, because they're actually putting their heart, they're putting their soul into it. It's not like a manufactured thing where you're literally, throwing a formula onto the assembly line and just pumping out fragrances. It's not like that. So for those, I would say, yeah, those niche brands that are out there, those independent niche brands that are out there hustling and actually putting their heart, soul, and creativity into what it is, yeah, it's definitely worth it for the price. But some of those other ones that are, at this point, just like I said, assembly lines for fragrances, no, not really.
Okay, so that actually brings me to another point, and I actually Nosy Neighbor and we talk offline, and Nosy Neighbor basically says what it comes down to is the price for people, and that simply there is a price that people don't want to pay, and everybody kind of has their price. Now, I've spent over $1,000 for a fragrance. But everybody kind of has their price. And what I want to start with Scent Bubble is, where is your price point? Because everybody's going to come to a point where they say, I am willing to pay this amount for a fragrance. I am not willing to pay this amount for a fragrance. And so once the fragrance gets to this amount, that's my limit, but I'm willing to stay right here. So what in your idea, as long as if they're using quality materials and things like that, where's your price point?
I don't have a price point. I don't have a threshold. I think what it comes down to is what is it worth to you? I think oftentimes the conversation is about what is the experience that it gives you. If you can get a similar experience for less money, you're going to go swim in that water for a while until you get bored of that. And then you're going to try and find something else in that price point. And if it gets dead at some point, you might have to spend some more money. I've been shocked at how low my threshold has been and how it's changed over time. It'd be a time where I say I never spent $100 on a fragrance. Then there's a time I say I never spent $200 on a fragrance. I think season of life also has a lot to do with it. You get older, stuff gets boring. You start thinking about the finer things in life. Okay, now you got a little bit more bread that, you know, is subjective. Every time you say, hey, I'll never spend $30,000 on a car, it changed. You know what I'm saying? So it comes down to the experience and value. And I thought it was interesting when you guys talked about kind of like supply and demand and quality. And I don't think fragrance houses are ever going to be fully transparent in terms of telling us how much it costs to make the actual juice that they're surcharging. Because I think a lot of people would fall out of business or lose clientele when they figure out, oh, you spent, you know, $15 on the juice and then charge me $500. That make me feel some type of way, even if I love the vibe it gave me. You know, once people start figuring out how much the iPhone cost, you know what I'm saying, to manufacture versus what they're paying for it, insanity in the margins. But you can get away with it because there aren't any more competitors. But as competitors start creeping into the phone game, people start switching it up. And I think that's a necessary thing in fragrance. More people are starting to get into the game. More people are starting to be transparent about what the cost is and the ingredients and the difference in quality. And that's great information for us to know so we can make informed decisions. Price definitely has a lot to do with it. But I think ultimately for me, it just comes down to how much I value something. If something gives me an incredible experience that I can't find anywhere else, I've found in fragrance that oftentimes that threshold constantly is a moving goalpost for me where I'm willing to spend more. But thankfully, it's a giant spectrum. And that's what I love about fragrance is anybody can tap in at any price point and get a phenomenal experience that they might graduate from. But for that moment, it's an incredible experience for their mood and their lifestyle and things like that. So that's been my experience.
Okay, so before I go to everybody else, because I want to see what everybody's price point is, Nosy has also talked to me, and I saw Sally bring it up in the chat. If all things are equal and it's not about price, would you want the OG or the clone? So
what have I been exposed to?
Okay.
Like, we got to stop lying, bro. Like, this has turned into a credit score conversation. It's exposure. Like, because I seen somebody earlier talk about I was moving the goalposts. Like, how you gonna get mad at me because of facts? Like, again, it's this grumpy old conversation. You're going to. Suit said the very first fragrance he got was a Creed fragrance. That set the standard for him. So it's the same thing in relationships. If you got hurt, guess you gonna kind of be a little iffy when you get into the next one, because you're gonna be looking out for that level of deficiency to happen in the next person. Like, it doesn't matter if all things were equal. You're going to buy what you've been exposed to, because now we're judging people. That's the whole point. People aren't thinking for themselves. We judging people's wallet. I'm judging what your money looks like. That's the stupidest thing ever and I'm not talking about you, Sally. I'm just saying in general, that's a stupid conversation. Because because Chad Ochocinco buys fake jewelry. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you he got more money than everybody that's in this chat and talking right now. You buy what you want to buy.
Yeah. And to save money, they would purchase cheaper things and still front like it's the real thing. Yeah.
Now, I'm not gonna do that. We're gonna keep it a buck. It's a clone, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is, and I think that's what people have a problem with. Where we got a lot of angry birds that are mad with the state of where we are, where people are selling. And I've been accused of that. I'm like, no, sample, this is what it is. We talked about something earlier. I think you said Joel mentioned it. I'm gonna shut up. We talked about Rifficot, and I've heard a lot of people say this, Paris Corner Rifficot, which is baby cat. Smelling that pushes you and Sim Bubba, you said this. It pushes you to want to smell the original. Okay. If you're really in this game for real, but that's Fragcom. Mm-hmm. The industry, the people, they just want to smell good. We are a niche group. Since we're talking about niche and designer, we are a niche group, a niche collective on this corner of the internet that are having that conversation. And those of us who are really in this game to experience fragrance, we're going to experience all of it. But I'm not judging somebody because they want to buy what they want to buy with the money they have, whether they got it or whether they don't got it. I think that's the level of insecurity. It just comes off stupid to me to be judging what another man spends his money on. But that's my personal take.
Yeah, we're a niche. We're a niche within a niche.
Yeah. All I can say is when I was younger, if I was wearing a gold plated, it was real gold until it turned my neck green. That's all I'm saying.
I also don't want to speak in generalities when it comes to that either, because I've experienced some clones that I would rather pick. Even if money was not an option, I would pick over the OG. One of my favorite fragrances that I encountered in that scenario was Cedrat Essence. Because when I got Cedrat Essence, I was like, this is, got a more mass appealing feel than Cedrat, Basé does. And I know that's like sacrilege to a lot of folks. But I felt like, oh, wait a minute. I can wear this. I get more compliments with this Cedrat Essence because of the fact that it's got a more vanillic tone to it. So I kind of preferred it over the OG. Fat Boy was talking about Le Mans Elixir earlier, man. Lionheart from Club de Nuit. That thing, it adds more mint in there and it freshens it up. It's not as heavy as the original Le Mans. It makes it more favorable for like multiple seasons. So I actually prefer that over the actual OG. So I don't like
over
speaking.
Ganymede.
What's that?
Celestial over Ganymede.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another one. That's another one. It's one of those where it's like, you know what? I would actually take this over what the OG is. So I can't even speak in general because it's a situational thing, man.
Now, is when you say you would take, so there's something I want to flesh out on that. When you say you would take that fragrance over the OG, is it really 100, like a 1-to-1 clone, or is it a twist and there's something about that twist that you enjoy more?
I think it's more of a twist. Okay. They'll say that it's cloning, but I think everything technically is a twist. I don't think that that there's any true 1-to-1s with like any OG fragrance. I don't think there's really any 1-to-1s. I think everything has a little bit of a twist to it. They may try as they might, but they won't exactly hit it. But sometimes the way that they, the attempt that they make is good enough. And sometimes it makes the fragrance even better than the original DNA was. So,
I want to speak to clarify that. Like, I think in my experience in the space, and I've smelled hundreds of clones, and I always get the original with it, so I have a frame of reference. I think the best of the best clones get about 95, and I think that little 5% window is where some clones actually, that 5% nuance is actually better than the original fragrance in its twist. So I think in Fragcom, when we say twist or remix or whatever, those are fragrances that are more like Camera and Angel Share is a great example of that, where if you're really looking at Camera, it's more like 70 or 80% close. You would call that a twist because it's a huge deviation. But in the best clones that we typically today call 1-to-1, it's truthfully like a 95%. But in that 5% window, there's actually some clones that the little 5% deviation, maybe a little more fresh, maybe a little more projection, maybe an extra note. In that 5% window, we would actually prefer that nuance over the OG and it's still 1-to-1 enough to where when we talk about it, we would say it's 1-to-1, when in actuality it is a twist, but a 5% twist is different than a 20% twist.
Okay.
Oh,
So
is it?
Finesse, what is your kind of sweet spot as far as when you're thinking about paying for a fragrance? What's that kind of sweet spot of this is the right amount that I want to pay?
When is going to be available on a discounter? It's like I don't.
Friends don't let friends pay retail, man.
Why pay retail?
Yeah.
I mean, again, and some people like this is good. It's going. Suits made this point earlier about trusting OGs. Some people trust retail. It's like they want to, and I'm like,
That's me.
if I go to Saks and they're telling me $450, but then I can go, to Vimba, Fragrance Bar, Joma Shop, where like what you like, love what you love. I know we all have different tastes, and I can get it for $260. Or if you're that brave of a person, you want to go to these groups on Facebook and deal directly with a person, and you maybe get even a better deal there. I mean, I get it. Like, my price point is if it's something I really, really, really like, when is it going to be because I cannot wrap my mind around. I get it. I'm for it. It's cool. You know what I'm saying? And if it's that great, it's still, I'm looking for, that's what it's like, yo, who got the code? Like, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, dang, boy, that junk.
I'm curious though. Suits said he trusts retail, but I'm actually curious and educate me on this. When I observe Fragcom and dudes that purchase niche and designer and stuff like that, I've always been under the assumption that most of the niche market outside of like independent is accessible at some level of a discount. Is that not been your experience? Have you always had to pay full quote unquote MSRP retail on a niche fragrance?
For most of them, yeah. Well, my discounts are come with discount codes from the house itself.
Okay.
So when I purchase fragrance that I know that I can trust. Nothing against discounters, discount websites, nothing against them all. But I know if I'm going, Neiman's is my store, Saks is my store, even Bloomingdale's, I know what I'm getting there. I've heard good stories, I heard bad stories about, I'm not even gonna say the name of the site or whatever, but it come in, the cap is loose, or they tell you 2-day shipping and you get it 2 weeks later, stuff like that. When I want a fragrance, I want it right then and there. So
we talking about Slumber Shop. Not me, so my bad.
I'm just saying.
He said the cap is gone.
Yeah, I've been heard stories, but I know I have confidence when I go to Neiman's and what I'm getting. Yeah, I might pay a little extra, but if I can do that, I'm gonna do that. That's all to it. I mean, I purchase what I like.
So, Suits.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I'm asking you this question.
I'm about to say, I know you're not about to ask him what the budget is. It's clear. It's clear as day.
Move on, Sean.
I gotta ask it. Suits, is there a price point where you say, nah, I just can't buy that?
Yeah, I'm not spending over $75. Not doing. No, actually, I mean, I don't have a price point because it's like all of you. We all have what you like. What you like. If you like chocolate chip cookies and you got a craving for it, you're gonna spend that bread for it. Me, I love, like, Rose is my favorite house, and some of it, yeah, I'm addicted to it. When they come out with something, I gotta have it. That's just me. Like, say you're gonna be loyal to a house, whatever. Yeah, I am. I'll admit it. I'm loyal to Rosia, and I'm in a place where I can spend that, spend a little bit of money for it. I got an EBT card and everything.
So I can definitely see where we go, and money is kind of I would say, a price point for everybody. So I will say right in the beginning that when my kids, most of them were getting ready to go into college, and when they were in college, I was not paying hundreds of dollars for a fragrance. But then after some graduated, some actually got jobs, they got off of me having to pay for them, then I had more, I would say, recreational money that I could spend.
Disposable.
And so I elevated the type of fragrances that I get. Now I do buy some retail because there are some fragrances that you can't get on discounters, but a lot of times I will try to wait for a discounter and get that as well. But the next, and going into this part of it that I want to ask everybody, usually what I say when I talk about clone fragrances is that I talk about them in the fact that it's inspirations do best, in my opinion, when you have kind of like a lower end niche or designer fragrances that are more linear and are not as complex. That is why I'm interested in what Alexandria does as far as how is it going to smell against Diaghilev? Is it going to have an opening, a mid, and a dry down, or amber oud and things like that? So what do everybody think about kind of like the ultra niche type fragrances? And we'll start with Suits again on that, and then we'll go around.
I'm sorry, I was reading this. Whoever this was talking about how can you buy fragrance and still have an EBT? Cause I had to know it was a joke, man. It's like Flatboy said, man. Don't take it so personal. Jeez.
Because people are ready to call some government official and let them know that you're trying to get over.
Watch the house while we live.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything about EBT. Truth be told, I wish I could get a car, especially with these tariffs and they getting high. I mean, a carton of eggs costs $42 now. Like, it's
But you
crazy.
ain't lying. I just came from the store.
Eggs, man. Maybe we
Man.
For real, do Lattafa have some eggs that they can get?
Yeah,
all the egg memes are going around. They definitely are going around.
Man. But I'm sorry, Charm. What was your question again, Professor? That's what I call him. I call him the Professor. Y'all call him Charm City. I call him the Professor.
So I guess the first thing is the quality of niche, ultra niche fragrance, like Roja, like Spirit of Dubai. To me, and I'm curious to see how, because Alexandria to me is kind of one of the more upper end kind of clone houses, and their prices are a little higher. I'm curious to see how they do as far as cloning the upper echelon of the complex niche fragrances. What do you think about that? What draws you to like Roja? Because I know they usually are throwing in at least 30 notes and things like that. Does it make a complexity? And is that one of the reasons why you're drawn to the house?
The quality and the transition. Man. Okay, like number 1, 2, 3, Diaghilev, Haute Luxe, that whole line from the opening to the middle to the dry, it just takes you on a journey. And not too many, well, I can't speak on clones, but I don't know or if anybody have spoken on clones that does that. That will take you literally on a journey you can just, the quality and the presentation from the opening, the bottle, when you first spray it, and how it just hits you and just transforms your way of thinking and elevates your attitude, your mood. That's what it does for me. It just changes everything. It just changed that, and I'm willing to spend that bag for it. With the house of Roja that we're speaking of, it literally puts me in the mindset of lifting my morale, my attitude, my way of thinking. Like I said, my first fragrance was a Creed fragrance, Royal Oud. Back then, I was the cool water guy and all the other stuff like that. But when I got Royal Oud, I was like, oh man, the attention that I'm telling you, the attention that I was getting, my level of attention from women elevated. It went from this tier to that tier. Then it changed my way of dress. my way of thinking. And then when I started making more paper, I was like, oh man, I'm going down this route. And it was on from there. You know, because I mean, the best way to make money is go to the senior citizens building and start stripping. You make so much money. I'm trying to tell you. Y'all make so much money, man. Serious. Social security checks, man, pensions, like I'm saying.
Go to the first of the month. You got to go to the first of the month.
They give it up, boy. I'm trying to tell you.
You go towards the end of the month, you might be in trouble.
Boy, you wild, boy. Boy, you wild for that.
All right, Finesse.
Yeah,
I saw
man.
you in the chat, so give your answer on the transition and what's your thoughts on some of the ultra niche fragrances.
Yeah, I think that's where currently clones, you know, a lot of them are going to fall short. Quality has gotten better because, you know, it's almost like you see the Lattafas, and because a lot of these perfumers are starting to work with a lot of these Middle Eastern companies, you know, and we also do kind of degrade them because we call them clone companies. Even though they're regular houses, they just got famous and popular, you know what I'm saying, for their clones or whatever. But I think honestly right now, Alexandria and then Yom and Leo are in my opinion, would be the two premier houses as far as that specialize in clones. And I know Alexandria does some original things. Yom and Leo is actually just releasing their original fragrance or whatever. But as far as, and Yom and Leo specifically goes after more of those niche style fragrances. So they haven't been around as long as Alexandria have, but as far as being able to capture as much of that essence of the transition as possible, because to me, and I haven't smelt everything, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like I need to take a field trip, you know, to Suit's house to just, you know, Suit's, I'll pay you. I'll be like, let me just, you know, imagine school bus out here. But I will say Argos is the perfect example of take you on a ride. Pause. Like, it is crazy how, and every fragrance you would think is supposed to do that for the most part. Like the opening and then the middle, you know, the heart, and then the dry down. But what we see a lot of times with designers, you know, they transition pretty quickly, you know, so it's not really a story behind it. The Argos thing is just kind of crazy because you get this story, but then it's like you're living with the fragrance and going through the story at the same time. So it's almost like in a movie in real life. And this goes to the content creator thing. This is why a lot of people have an issue with me. Like, they'd be like, yo, your content is too long. And I'd be like, thank you for contributing to the algorithm. You sit there and watch and comment it. So that's your problem, not mine. But if I'm reviewing a fragrance, there's no way I can experience this entire fragrance in 5 minutes. So part of the length of my videos is to really kind of give this time, and those who are in the chat can testify. There have been some things where I've been like in the opening, you'd be like, ooh, and then by the time we get to the dry down, you'd be like, okay. And if I'm reviewing multiple fragrances, I might move on to something else and be like, dang, that joint done changed again. You know what I'm saying? So I think niche does that very well just because of the nuances there. I don't know. Designers are designers. I mean, I think design, which is why I think you see a lot of clones, they mostly go after designer fragrances because designer fragrances are typically linear. You know what I'm saying? But I'll throw Yom and Leo, Alexandria out there, but niche, that is where you kind of get that transition. And not just me personally, even though I haven't smelled a lot, I think Argos does it better. I know y'all will kill me in the chat, but I think Argos does it better than anybody as far as like this fragrance has changed 20 times over the span of wearing it, you know, so that's just my 2 cents.
I don't think enough people talk about the transition. In my experience in watching content creators, even that are evaluating, I mean, in the niche category somewhat, but in my experience in watching a lot of content, and I watched content for a long time before I even started my channel, just to educate myself and become a fan first. I don't think transitions in fragrances are talked about enough. It doesn't seem like there's a joy for investigating and speaking about that in fragrance enough. Like when I just think about all the people that I follow and how they talk about a fragrance, they'll talk a lot about the opening and a lot about the dry down. You might get a few lines about, oh, well, this transitions slightly or whatever, but normally they're evaluating a fragrance in real time. You can't really trust there's not a lot of info there for you to work with. So I don't know. I just find that to be interesting, but I wish people would talk about it more, but I think the general consensus for me is I don't find a lot of people, at least in terms of the buying market of fragrance, are really interested in that aspect. That they just want to know, what's it smell like in the air, and then does it dry down the same or does it change? They don't really need to evaluate all the middle of it. But I do find it fascinating, and I think as Fragcom's growing, we'll start to see more people talking about that. And there are definitely content creators that will really break down the transition of a fragrance. Hughes is one of those guys who will really sit down and scientifically talk about the chemicals, how it sits, you know, everything like that. But generally, I don't see it talked about enough for people to appreciate enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, just in general, that's why I kind of do a scent of the day, and I don't do scent of the day of things that I just get. I want to get it that I've had it for a while, and I try to talk through the transition of a fragrance, but because I think that's important. But in general, I would say for the most part, when we're talking about designer fragrances, they don't have a whole lot of transition. They're a lot more linear, and you can appreciate transition in, say, like a Roja or Spirit of Dubai, where even in different temperatures, they give you different facets of the fragrance and different nuances from it, and how it adjusts to your skin temperature and chemistry.
Yeah. Can I add something to that? I think just you know, from a content creating perspective, you know, I get it, you know, kind of talking about the transitions, because when I do my videos, I'm mostly going to tell you how that thing opens. Look, it's Scent Bubble. I'm telling you how it opens and what your experience is at the dry down, because people have short attention spans, right? Like, you know, I get it. They may not be as enthused or have the love of fragrances like we all do to sit through all of the transitions. At the end of the day, I feel like people want to know, does it smell good in the air, and is it going to smell good on my body, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours into wearing it? So, but I mean, certain fragrances I do go into a little more intricate details. And just talking about a little bit about clones, I have experienced some clone fragrances that go through transitions. Like, I don't think you know, that's something that is exclusive to just niche fragrances. I just got a fragrance in the mail today that not a lot of people talk about, by Afnan. It's called Edict Mystique. And that fragrance is kind of a soft, musky fragrance. It kind of smells a little bit like Sultani. I know, don't beat me up, guys. Don't beat me up in the chat. But it kind of smells a little bit like that. But it has, I was testing it today, and, you know, through the hours of testing it, I experienced kind of like powdery green at the top. Then it kind of transitions to more kind of fresh, spicy. And then you get to the dry down, and it has like this minty oud type of vibe that almost smells a little bit like Oud Lemon Mint by Mancera, like the dry down of that fragrance. So that's a clone. I don't know if it's technically marketed as a clone. I haven't seen, I know Ross did a video on it, maybe a couple other content creators, but it is from a brand that's considered a clone house, I guess, Afnan. To Walt's point, you know, just because it's Afnan and Lattafa, they do make original fragrances. I don't know that this is one-to-one clone of anything. Again, kind of smells like Sultani, but it does have a lot of transition, and I paid $30 for a tester for the fragrance, and the quality is decent. So,
okay,
yeah.
In talking to that, and that kind of brings us to another point. There are times that clones are kind of needed. There are times when people basically discontinue a fragrance, and a clone comes out and it makes it, because we talked about that the last time.
Yes.
When 1 million Privé is no longer on the market.
Yeah.
And unless you want to go to eBay, hope that the person who had it was keeping it right, and you're going to pay 5 times the price that it regularly costs, or you can get a clone. So do you think that clones are a solution for people who can't afford the originals, or can't afford something or can't pay an exorbitant price because it's on the eBay market, the aftermarket, and things like that?
I'm wearing Starman Nebula right now. That's a clone of Pure Malt by Mugler. That fragrance is discontinued unless you want to pay crazy prices for it. So just to throw that out there. I do think cost plays a part in people buying clone fragrances. I mean, the economy, it is what it is, depending on your situation, depending on your family circumstances, that all lends into whether or not you might buy a clone fragrance. Dedrick says it all the time. You don't have to break the bank necessarily to smell good. And I tend to lean towards that. I got a daughter graduating from high school this year. I can't be out here balling on all of these fragrances, but I like to smell good. And if I can find an affordable alternative to do so, I'm going to do so.
So do you think there's a difference between smelling good and smelling amazing?
I think so, but listen, I've been told I smell amazing wearing an $18 fragrance, and I've been told I smell amazing wearing a $150 fragrance. So all of that is subjective. It's all relative, if you ask me.
Makes sense. That's true. Everybody got a salary cap, man. Like everybody got life that they dealing with. I think I mentioned this on the last show. Everybody got a salary cap, man.
If I'm suits, man, he ain't got no salary cap.
Right.
It's called life.
Right. Right. But I mean, I think there's utility in those fragrances, man, that do. I have Rasasi, It's Essential, sitting over there right now. That's a clone of Ultime.
Right.
And I love it. As a matter of fact, I loved it so much. It reignited my love for Ultime to the point to where I started rethinking about it. Maybe I should get it off of eBay somewhere, and then it came up on Drone Shop. It was sold out in the first 10 minutes. But yeah, so I think they do have utility in that scenario. Also, if you can't afford to go and get, your imaginations, or you can't afford to get your Pacific Chills and stuff like that, you fit it under your salary cap and get you a Luciano, or get you, a Game of Spades or something like that. There is utility in that. So I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. Nothing at all, man. Stay within your budget. Don't break your bank. And I think that's the other thing. There's such a thing as fear of missing out. And I think that some people will go and chase after these bigger, more expensive brands and things like that, when they really are only caring about the top note. They're really only caring about what it smells like in the air. And if that's all you really are worried about, then go get you a Game of Spades and chill out.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. I had attended a master class for Tom Ford. This is before he done sold it like 1,000 times. And Plum Japanese was discontinued then. But the guy had a bottle, brand new in the box and everything. And he got me because I wanted it. So I paid that bread for it. Because when Plum Japanese came out, what was it, like two something, maybe the low threes? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I paid $7 for it. I'll admit it. I wanted it.
Man.
I can admit that. But I wanted it. Like you said, I was chasing that fragrance.
Yeah.
But to that point, I'm sorry, Charmaine, to cut you off. I was gonna say suits or anybody, and I want to shout out Jims and Jason because they've really talked about this a lot. And I saw Jason mention this earlier as far as in addition to what's your price point, it's like, yo, do I really need 100 mils? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times, going back to the sneaker reference, we see a lot of people collect sneakers and then they end up rotten. You see people like they don't even wear the shoes. It's like, do you wear your fragrance? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yo, like for me, like my boys know, they hear me say dirty 30. You know what I'm saying? If I can get, because the thing is, I'm gonna be more apt to wear that 30 mil, and it's probably gonna, or even a 10 mil, depending on what it is, it's gonna encourage me to wear it more. And then I'll re-up on that if I really like it. If I'm not giving that 10 mil, or if I sample it and I really don't come back to the sample, you know, after several wearings, if it's like 5 mil, something like that, and I'm really not feeling it, it is what it is. We're gonna keep it moving. But it's like, I know a lot of, we get in trouble and we waste a lot of money, either because it doesn't come in a smaller form factor, but it's like, we'll buy 100 mils of some of this stuff and it'd be like, bro, and depending on how many fragrances in your collection, it's like, dang, like when is the last time you've worn that? Or, you know, we got this whole dent gang thing going on, you know, where people try to judge you by the dent in the bottle. Well, that's a whole other thing.
What's your dent look like?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, bro, if you some of these people that's got 3, 4, 5, 6, and we know a lot of people that have thousands of bottles. I'm like, bro, they probably, like, if you're wearing everything that you have, which I honestly don't think is most people. I think you have those things that you just come back to over and over and over, and you try to get into other things as you know you buy them. But I think a lot of people just buy stuff, they just want to sit it on the display to be like, they like it. And and it's like aromatherapy. They'll walk by, I like to put it back up, but they don't actually wear it, you know. So I'm like, why am I'm not going to buy 100 mils of that, you know, if it's not something I'm actually gonna put on.
Yeah, that's true.
FOMO is a real thing, man.
Yeah.
It's an addiction.
Yeah, but what
Definitely,
I can say
man.
is 30 mils for suit is like one wearing. So,
So there's a thing with that. Yeah, there's definitely a thing.
So if I can add to that, I mentioned it a little bit in the chat. I've kind of leaned into, you know, buying 10 mLs of maybe some niche fragrances more. I have a guy locally where I live who decants. Sometimes I, you know, have these decants that I show in my videos. People are like, where you get them decants from? I know somebody here who, you know, he's an enthusiast and he decants some of his fragrances, but they'll clown you. And look, it's like, look, do y'all want me to show y'all clones, or do you want me to show you this decant of the real thing? They'll clown you if you don't have a full, you're not showing them the real bottle. It's like, look, man, look, here goes Silver Birch by Amaru. This right here. I show you this. Yeah. It's the same. It smells good. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing, but it's not the white bottle, you know, and they want to clown you for it, but I don't get into all that. But I have no issues buying 30 mLs or 50 ml bottles to Walt's point, because I have so many fragrances, you know, a 10 ml will last me forever at this point, you know, a very long time, you know, depending on the fragrance.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's how. Just not to interrupt you, Charm, but that's kind of what it is, man. I mean, you know, over time, you tend to, you know, see what you like and what you don't like. I end up wearing every one of these bottles on this wall has a dent about yay big in it. You know, and the reason why is because that's kind of happened over time. Over time, I've, you know, worn a fragrance and okay, it's going to go up here on the wall. I still wear at least 85% of everything that's up there. Unless I just plain up don't like it. The problem is I don't have anything on this wall that I don't like. You know, when it comes to like the niche stuff, look, I will go and get a 8 mil of that so quick. It ain't even funny. You know, I mean, I got a bag of 8 mils of, you know, that I've got from people that I've, you know, for niche fragrances and things like that. So I don't think that's a problem at all to do that. I think that going with that 10 mil, going with that 30 mil, that's just cost efficient, man. And if you have a big collection, you're not going to go through, you know, 100 mil. That's never going to happen. You know, my collection isn't that big, but I know I got a friend of mine who I get some of these decants from, you know, that like literally he has like 2,000 bottles.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, I will never go back to a lot of these fragrances.
I love to ask the question to the general public, like people who follow my channel. I love asking this question. How many 100 ml bottles have you emptied in your lifetime with fragrance? You will be flabbergasted at the various answers. Not to suggest one thing over the other, but it's just a great survey to ask people. How many full bottles have you gone through completely in your day? Which ones have you bought a second bottle of? Because it's good information.
Yeah.
Don't ask Suits that because he has co-named several bottles. But I will say that there's a couple things to that. And first, there's also shelf presence. So I definitely, there's a difference. And Nate said it in the thing. I clown him when he brings out 30 ml bottles for a battle. But there is a perception in Fragcom that if you don't have a full bottle, then you can't speak intelligently about the fragrance. So that is definitely a perception that has started from a long time ago. When I first started watching videos, that was the case. Everybody, before I left messages, before I started a channel, it was you only gave a full review if you had a full bottle. But and that's a point to talk about because now we're getting in 2025 and there are people that do videos on decants and things like that. Now, I personally, I buy not only for the juice because I have over 400 fragrances. I won't go through any of them in my lifetime, probably. Certain ones I may that I use more often than not, like LV Imagination. That's one of my favorites, but you can refill it for less money. But it's a point of the presentation, the artwork, the way I enjoy the fragrance, even if I know that I won't go through it. Most of my bottles don't have dents because I try to use different fragrances every day. But there's something to it. Maybe that's the fanatic in me, but there's something to that I do like buying bottles, 100 ml bottles, because I like when I have 10 Amouages, I stack them up. If I have 10 Rosiers, I stack them up on my shelf. And one of the reasons why I don't like Arabian Oud sometimes, I love the juice, is all of their bottles are different. So that when you try to stack them up, it looks crazy. But, and a lot of the clothes houses do the same thing. It's nice, Alexandria, because the bottles are basically, the same, so you can do that. I just going into a question because I've gone down a rabbit trail. Do the panel? Do you think that clones are a solution for people who love high-end fragrances but can't afford it?
Short answers across the board. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. And do you think, well, let's get into the ethical part of it. So are cloning a fragrance, in your opinion, is it a form of theft or is it just a natural part of the industry?
Just natural part of the industry. Everything gets cloned. I go to Walmart and I see Equate this, Great Value that, but guess what? I mean, if you can afford the Great Value mac and cheese and save a couple of dollars as opposed to buying the Kraft, you know what I'm saying? Then he's like, no.
we ain't doing that,
So here's the thing. Look. Where I'm from, it was one of them things where, that might have to happen.
I mean, I get it. I understand, yeah.
But yeah, if it's that, again, we play within our salary cap. If you want to smell like imagination and you ain't got imagination money, but you get something that's good enough for you, by all means, go ahead and invest in what's good enough for you. And if it fits inside your salary cap, I have a bigger problem with somebody who doesn't have the money and splurges on a bottle, a $400 bottle, than I have of somebody who buys the $40 clone.
Yeah,
and stays within their budget. Because that means you're not handling your business elsewhere if you can't afford it. Now, if you can afford that bottle, go ahead. But if you can't, and you sitting around smelling like $1 million and driving your skateboard to work, it's not working.
I think the ethical conversation comes down to clone houses that actually steal the artwork and aesthetic of a particular bottle. There's a difference between Kraft macaroni and cheese and some Gouda brand. They don't look the same from artwork to product. I think the issue comes down to when you have like a Maison Alhambras Toscano leather just outright biting top to bottom bottle presentation, marketing, and they're doing everything other than telling you that it's exactly Tuscan leather from Tom Ford. But you know, I think it's a natural progression of where we're at right now, because basically what every clone house does is they clone the piss out of the fragrance and make fragrances that, you know, based visually are going after a fragrance, and then they get their money up as a company, and then they start to change their artwork and presentation in bottles and start to be more suggestive rather than just blatantly outright robbing somebody's artistic you know, honesty. So but I think that that's what they're all going to do, because they're out of jurisdiction to really be chased after. But I think that part of it is a little bit funky, you know what I'm saying, when you can just outright put no effort into it at all, carbon copy the formula. But we are starting to see that that's kind of the starting point to a lot of these companies, and then they get established with their own brand and then pivot off.
Well, there's a little caveat to that. So this is Woody Oud, and it's, of course, it's looks just like
Yeah.
So the reason why they stopped that bottle is because they got sued. So to give you a little point on it, is the courts have decided that a smell is not patentable. You cannot get a patent right on a smell. However, the bottle is considered artistic, and you can get a patent on that. So the reason why they stopped it and they changed the name and everything is because they got sued, and they said that this bottle presentation and the name is so close to Tom Ford Oud's wood that there's a reasonable expectation that the regular buying public would mistake this for Oud wood. And so there's that's not necessarily an ethical part of it, it's a legal part of it. But legally, you can clone a fragrance smell, but you cannot clone the bottle that it comes in. And they were getting away with it until they started selling so many of them that Tom Ford just sued them and won.
Can you sue on now? This is where it gets interesting, though, because what if you have a scenario, and maybe you could shed some light on this? I think we're all starting to learn about this in real time as this litigation happens. But like, let's look at Ministry of Oud, for example. They don't clone the bottles, but they copy the name and flip it. So Oud Satin Mood from MFK is now, you know, Oud Satin by Ministry of Oud. The bottle's different, but the name's basically the same. And then Royal Oud from Creed is now Oud Royal from Ministry of Oud, with the same coloration but completely different bottle. So a good question for that is, would they fall under litigation in the same way, simply because their bottle changed but their titling and language is the same?
It goes under, you know, we're getting into some legal aspects of it, but it goes into, would a reasonable person mistake that for the original? And so a lot of times, if the bottle is different and they've transposed the words and things like that, it is a subjective that maybe a jury or a judge would have to decide. Is it enough of a change that a reasonable person would not be mistaken in getting getting that inspiration or clone, thinking that they're getting the original?
Yeah, because Oud Satin's bottle looks nothing like Oud Satin Mood. Like the coloration, it's not the same bottle at all. So
Oud Royal, though, is kind of close, low key. Clear bottle on black plating.
But does the brand care?
The shape of the bottle, like the Creed bottle, is not. You know, that's a
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of an artsy conversation. It's like with music and copyright.
Yeah, and it's a similar thing because it's considered artistic. It is similar to music and copyright, and there are sometimes where you don't even understand, like Marvin Gaye's estate winning against Robin Thicke. The song is totally different. I can't believe that won. But kudos to the lawyer that did that, because that lawyer obviously has some skills.
Yeah.
Those two houses y'all mentioned, those are clones, right?
Ministry of Oud,
this one is, even though it looks like Tom Ford, but they don't sell this bottle anymore. They took it off the market.
Yeah.
But this is Mason Alhambra's,
Which is Lattafa.
Woody Oud, right?
Yeah.
Which is basically Lattafa.
They need to get Fragrance World in Paris Corner too, though. Like, I think Tom Ford is a brand that's gonna care. Some of these, like, take Mason Crivelli, take Oud Maracuja, for example. Fragrance World has a bottle that is a 1-to-1 representation of that Oud Maracuja bottle. But Mason Crivelli is probably not out here checking, you know what I'm saying, for something like that. Now, I do think this conversation is good for us to talk about later and not necessarily tonight, because if you ain't seen, like, LV is cracking. I know specifically on Meta.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's coming in TikTok. LV is cracking. Like, it's like you got to be careful how you even review anything relating to them, because they'd be like, "Oh, you out here selling fake products." Oh, bro, like,
I'm getting that too on my channel.
I don't even, like, when I review anything that's associated with them, I don't even bring up the name. When I do the review, like, I always make sure they're separate, because somebody asked me in my comments, "Well, you got the real bottle, man. Why don't you bring that in the video with the?" And I said, no. I don't even want to make it look like I'm insinuating that, because you heard what happened with Neeb and what happened, you know, that his channel and all the hundreds of $100,000 he had to pay to get the channel back. Man, look, no. Not even
Louis
taking that chance.
Vuitton and imagination are some of the highest search terms in Fragcom right now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Literally, just by titling a video imagination or LV or Louis Vuitton, serious multipliers on from a searchability standpoint. So they are cracking crazy on it, and rightfully so.
They're eliminating entire groups from, like, Facebook and stuff, like reselling. Look, you guys are talking about Fragrance World. Look at this. This is a Fragrance World Dior Fahrenheit. That looks just like the bottle. So Fragrance World. So Fragrance World, they notorious for it. So
it's there's a lot of reasons why they can get away with it. Some people have to sue. So Mason Crivelli probably isn't big enough. They probably know. I'm sure they know that their bottles are being cloned. And
did they get their bottle from Alibaba, Charm?
Yeah,
because there are certain distributors out here where it's like the bottle is fair game. There are a few companies who are like, no, we have patented this bottle, but then what we're finding out is like, how did y'all get that bottle? Like, that's the exact same bottle. Yeah. So how did you get that bottle? It's like, oh, so okay, so somebody sourcing this. Oh, okay, cool. Now we see kind of what's going on. Yeah. You know, so it's a lot going on. But to that point, I think Tom Ford is like, nah, we're not having it. Louis is not having it. And I think, but because they don't too much try it. But Fragrance World is like, we don't care. Until y'all send us a cease and desist, we gonna keep pushing them out.
That's my house, though. I'm a flag bearer for Fragrance World. I especially French Avenue. They even fragrances.
Oh yeah, even Maison Alhambra, Lattafa, they made a change. Like the Tux, they changed it to Winsome. Yep. There's a couple of other ones that they changed the name of just to kind of stay out of that space, you know, because I guess they know it was coming.
They got a cease and desist letter. They did. They didn't do it just because they decided, oh, we're going to be right. We're going to do right.
Oh no. As long as they get away with it, they're gonna get away with it. You know.
So. We have gone through 2 hours, and I'm going to try to we haven't even done half of the questions, but I really do appreciate everybody. I think this has been a great panel discussion and live, but I'm going to get to just a couple more questions, and then we may have a part 2, or we'll see how this all goes, or we may get the gang together for something else. But consumer mindset, and we kind of hit on that, and I want to talk about that because it seems like I say clones are here to stay, but it also seems in our space that clones are not only here to stay, they are getting a lot more traction than actually the OGs are getting. What's everybody's thoughts on that?
I think it all ties into affordability.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it all ties into, you know, what people can afford. I posted a video on my channel just a few days ago the only 8 clone fragrances you need in your collection. I've never had a video in my life get to 1,000 views that fast. Like I woke up the next day and looked at my YouTube. I'm like, what? Like, you know,
This video,
I'm still a small fry in the space, but I think it's all about you know, the affordability factor. People want to smell good, and they want to do that at a reasonable price. And clone fragrances opens up that avenue for people to do that.
I'm going to make a crazy statement. Most of the world will only find out in their lifetime about niche fragrances by first hearing about clone fragrances first, because they would have never been in a circle to even find out that niche fragrance was even a word, let alone a community. I think most people outside of Fragcom these days will connect in the same way that I did, which is randomly finding it on YouTube, seeing that it even exists, and then realizing, oh, wow, there's a place called Neiman Marcus where I can smell more expensive stuff, or, oh, there's these clones that are actually chasing after much better fragrances, and that whole narrative. Because the question is, where would people outside of the fragrance world even know niche exists? Most people don't go to Neiman's or Saks. They don't even know those places exist. So where else would they hear about it other than online? And most people online talking about them is affiliated with the clone conversation. So I don't know. I think it's actually a good thing, though. I think clone fragrances are why people are learning about the finer things in life in upper echelon designer and niche fragrances. And it's actually a beautiful thing, because it's like people don't even know this stuff exists. I know when I got into it, I was blown away at how much more to it was. It started from me figuring out what my next fragrance was going to be, to a rabbit hole of an addiction of looking into thousands of fragrances and sneaking into retail stores and smelling testers and going to Neiman's and copping bottles and getting test strips and having great conversations. And now to having a PO box where people now send me fragrances.
right?
That's a beautiful thing.
That is. My story is a little different because I'm older, so I didn't learn about fragrances online. I was actually in Macy's, started with Parfums de Marly, and that's kind of how I got introduced into niche fragrances, and then kind of stepped up from there, went to Nordstrom's, got some other things, and then went to Neiman Marcus and got Fragrance de Bois and stuff like that. So,
and it's interesting because I'll be honest with you, I've been a fragrance lover for like 25 years. And in that entire journey, I never encountered people that put me on to niche fragrances. My first fragrances was Acqua di Gio, Eau de Toilette, Gucci, Marc Jacobs by Marc Jacobs, Cool Water, Dreamer. And it just so happened I'm a guy that literally messed with those fragrances and retail level fragrances for like 15, 20 years, and nobody stepped my game up. And then 20 years later, oh my gosh, now my whole world explodes and puts me on another 10-year trajectory of learning how much bigger the community is. And I think a lot of people actually fit into that category because it's such a small community that is now exploding.
Yeah,
so you didn't have any friends like Suits then?
No, I did. I wish I would have had somebody, or like an older pops or an uncle, but they were all rocking, Drakkar and you know what I'm saying?
Maybe they was rocking that yoke. What you talking about?
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, but you know what? When I first heard the word niche, I actually thought it was a fragrance. I thought it was a fragrance called niche. I went to the stand, asked the lady. I was in Neiman. I started asking the lady. I said, "I'm looking for a fragrance called niche," and she looked at me like I was crazy. I looked at her like she was crazy. Like, yeah, I need niche. Where's niche? I need a fragrance called niche.
All right, go ahead.
Now I was gonna say that's real talk. To his point,
Yeah.
Again, it just goes back to everything is about what you were exposed to, and again, I hate to be that guy, but I draw parallels to barbershop conversations and sneaker conversations and sports. And right now, this is not my opinion. This is the market. These are statistics. You can look this up. Who is driving the spending in this industry? It is people between the ages of 18 and 44 years old. if you are a content creator and you go look at your analytics, go look at who's the majority of the people watching you. Go in the back, what Scent Bubble said. Look at the search terms. Look at the things like people use social media as a search engine now. So now when people can go to Google and ask questions, this is where I know I'm talking foreign language to some people and people don't think it's that deep, but I'm like, no, it's that deep for a lot of these people, because somebody can go to Google and say, what's the best cheap fragrance for summer? Back in the day, videos never showed up in that list. Now videos are popping up. So now you're probably going to see a Chaos. You're probably going to see a Gent Sense. You're probably going to see a Jeremy. So now you're probably going to see Neeb. So people are now trying to figure out, okay, how do I get in that upper echelon where when people are looking for imagination, when people are looking for Louis Vuitton, how do I get my name up there? And so depending on what your exposure is, we are living in a world now where people don't, like, these kids don't know what niche is. These Gen Z and millennials know what's right in front of them. And so all they see is TikTok talking about all of these Australia fragrances and these Lattafa fragrances and these Armand fragrances, and people are on YouTube. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I didn't even know niche was niche, like kind of like not thinking it was a fragrance, but like my uncles and them, they were wearing Bonds and Creeds. I was like, I didn't know that was a niche fragrance. I didn't learn about what the difference between niche and designer was until later. You know what I'm saying? I was like, well, shoot, you know, Curve was that joint, you know, we was coming up, but, you know, and then you had the Axe years and the Bod years and the Bath and Body Works, if you was brave enough to venture out to there, and anything you could buy from an outlet, and Liz Claiborne and whatever Walmart sold or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, you went to Macy's and discovered Parfums de Marly. It depends on what city you're in, because Macy's don't carry Parfums. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's like some people were shopping in Sears. Some people were shopping in J.C. Penney's. Some people were shopping at Suits House. I don't know. It just depends. But clones are definitely, I think the scary part, again, for some people is the normal is changing. And that's why I say, that's why I just want to stress, I just want people to be able to think for themselves and be like, yo, like what you like, love what you love. But it's like, you know, we get into the nuances of how we talk about them versus OGs. But like you said, we discovered that, yo, Fragcom is a special place. But when I think here's when the conversation, we need to have a part 2 or part 3. What, and I probably won't say anything else tonight. What brand or what Middle Eastern brand is going that specialize, whether it's Lattafa, Armaf, Afnan, what retailer is going to say, let's do something bold and take the risk and start carrying this brand in the store?
It's already happening. It's already happening. Lattafa, Afnan, they are in Burlington.
Beauty Master.
You talk about You're not talking about major retail. No, right.
I'm talking about retail stores. Right. When who is going to be the first to say? Because here's the thing: people aren't going to malls anymore. Like malls now are becoming very niche and boutique. You're going for a specific reason. We probably go to the mall just for purposes of fragrances. So it's like, who's going to say, okay, we got to pay this lease? How do we find a way to attract more people, bring more traffic? It's like, who's going to be that first person? Because it's coming where you just don't have to go to Perfume USA or whatever that kiosk is in the mall where they carry everything. It's like, what's going to be the first brand to make it in a Macy's or Nordstrom's or Neiman's? Because I think we're going to see it within the next 5 years. And then this conversation is going to completely erupt, because it's like, okay, now what y'all got to say now? Because y'all mad at us again for talking about what big business is doing. We didn't make that decision. We just talking about what the people got access to.
And that would be interesting if it came into a major store, because I would think right now you got Chanel, Dior, and some of those bigger names.
I think they would sue.
Fight that, right? That they're fighting to keep them out. Yeah, it would be interesting, but that kind of brings
opening that door. Yeah. I think Burlington could potentially be that gateway for these brands to eventually move into major retailers, because you got to think that would be going kind of backwards, because and hear me out and I'll let you finish. Okay. Usually those brands that are in Burlington and Ross and Marshalls, they first were selling in the big stores, and then when that
actual product got older, then it transferred down. I don't know if it would happen the other way though.
Yeah, you don't think that model could change? I mean, you know,
It
with
could,
the Middle
it
East.
could.
I think this is why it could change. To Meech's point, they're not building any more new Macy's, but they building Burlingtons like they changed draws. I'm like, what in the world is going on? So what that tells me is people are becoming more price conscious. The economy is crazy. Folks is looking for cheaper. So again, you can be Blockbuster and be the dinosaur if you want to. It's going to happen, whether it happens in 5, 10, or 15. But the fact that you do see all of these new Burlingtons popping up all over the place because they understand we can get to people quicker, then y'all are closing stores. We're building stores because we're using a different model, and we're deciding to carry things that people will probably see on social media. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be immediate, but even though it does seem backwards, Charm, I think everything is backwards right now, where it's like we're doing what works with the people and not just what has been done historically.
I want to share a quick statistic. 60% of the retail market share right now in terms of buying and selling goods is not happening in stores.
Online.
Amazon controls 60% of the global marketplace. That means more people are no longer going to the stores and they're buying online. And Amazon absolutely will carry these brands. I'm going to tell you one quick funny story. I was at the mall the other day, and they have these places called Perfume Mania, Perfume Madness, whatever. And they're Middle Eastern owned shops. And there's people right now, and this is the flip side of the game. Club de Nuit Intense Man is often sold for $20, $25. That's the sweet spot, right? Between Amazon and all these other places. These dudes are selling Club de Nuit Intense Man for $100 right now, and people are glad to buy it.
Because they don't know it.
They don't know about discounters.
The game is so tossed up right now. People are just getting put on that that's still a deal.
Yeah.
I've seen somebody do that, and when they got out the store, I showed them online what they could get that for, and they went back in and turned that back. I was like, bro, let me just tell you, what you just paid $100 for, that's $35.
And then to tie into that demographic, you know, what Walt was talking about, just that demographic who's watching, you know, the social media content with clones and everything. When you think about rack stores, you know, who shops at rack stores? People that are looking for deals, people that are looking for affordability, you know, moms taking their teenage sons to go get back to school clothes, and then they got to buy, oh, I got to smell good for, you know, back to school. So what are they going to buy? A Lattafa. You know what I mean? Like, so I think the game's changing, man. I really think it is. It's definitely changing.
Yep, Nordstrom Rack. Watch, and Macy's already backstage. Nordstrom Rack backstage. I'm trying to tell you, it's gonna slowly. It's be like, and they're gonna be like, shoot, we selling a lot of this. Maybe we should push this to the main floor and see what happens.
Yeah, Saks on 5th.
I think Lattafa's gonna be the first. And the reason I say that, I would have said Armaf, but I'm looking at what Lattafa's doing right now. They're starting to, like, they got Quentin Bish. I think he did the two teriyakis. I think he's got another one that he's doing. Natalie, I can't remember her last name. She's one of the bigger perfumists out there, sheet perfumer. She's going to be doing another project with Lattafa. It's almost like they're setting it up right now to where they're going to start pulling out, you know, their own original products, and they're going to make that move into that retail space.
I was pretty shocked that Quentin Bish actually did that. So that's interesting.
Why?
I mean, it could be a money thing. I just didn't. With
Myles Garrett re-signed in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I thought he wanted to win a ring, man. I thought he wanted to win a championship.
No ring. They want
40 million saying, no, I'm cool.
That money.
You got a bag. Right. I got a fragrance for you. What's good?
Exactly.
There you go. Well, getting into that, what is everybody's favorite house? It was a question that came up, and I still haven't answered it, asked it. But what is everyone's favorite house? I know Sue's favorite house is Rozier Parfums, but what is everybody else's favorite house?
House would have to be, if we're talking house, Mancera with Bond being a close second.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would probably say Mancera for me, Dior probably a close second.
On the clone side, Fragrance World.
Wait a
On
minute,
the
clone
other side,
Just-
Lalique.
just
Lalique's
the
my favorite.
Favorite house.
Period.
One house.
Lalique.
Period. Yeah.
Got to be Mancera for me. Definitely number one, man. If I had a even like remote number two in that scenario, it'd have to be Initio.
I'd have to say if I just put it to one house, it would be Rozier. So
Yeah.
there's a quality and to me the quality of their fragrances, the depth and the complexity of their fragrances, I just don't see anybody else. There's people that come close to it, but Rozier to me it'll be interesting to see. Rozier made his last fragrance and he's hiring other perfumers now to carry on the line. It would be
You're getting a lot of younger people now trying to inspire to grab the younger audience because he sees that, like what Fat Boy said, them younger people, they're attracted to clones. So he's trying to grab that audience, but he's still, in order to grab like that, you're gonna have to come down and price some. But
is it still going to have that Rozier DNA? Like there are things like their ambers and their oud fragrances, you can tell almost that it's a Rozier fragrance. Is it still going to be that, or is it going to be something totally different?
I mean, it depends on how much they're marketed up right now. I mean, because Rozier stuff is high quality, definitely. But I mean, is it $500 high quality? How much is it costing for them to make those? And how much of it, the price is based on the fact that it's Rozier Dove that's making it. I mean, you could have a Picasso up on the wall, and I can have somebody that, makes another, picture or whatever, but you're going to pay more for that just because it's Picasso that's the one that painted it. So if Rozier's got other people, younger people that are coming in that are doing it, can you lower that price point? Because it's not actually Rozier Dove that's actually perfuming it.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah,
we're gonna find out real quick.
We are.
I know what's out there now that's done by him. It's just absolutely gorgeousness to me. Yeah. Pure gorgeousness, man.
Gorgeousness.
That's that word that Charm said you made up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get that back. Gorgeousness. It is. I mean, everybody has their favorite house. Like you say, a lot of y'all like Mancera. He said the second one was Initio. Me and Charm, our house is Rozier. Mine is simply because of the quality. I think it's just superb quality, and I know what I'm getting.
Now here's another thing, and we're winding up, but man, getting all you guys together and asking questions, I'm really enjoying this. Because of where we are and what clones are doing and things like that, a lot of these clone houses, they are doing original fragrances. They're getting people out. I remember Assad Zanzibar, I really wasn't crazy about, but I know that was an original that came out. I even bought it early, but I didn't really, that really wasn't my sort of fragrance. But do you think that a inspiration house can transform themselves into kind of like a higher quality or an original house that's going to sell? Because I really don't know if any of these inspiration houses are really selling a whole lot of original fragrances.
They have them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I made that point earlier where most of these houses, I think honestly started off like they have original fragrances. It's just that somebody figured out, it was like, this smelled like something. And then they talked about it, and then or they posted it on some type of blog board, and then somebody said, yeah, I agree. And then I agree. And then I agree. And here comes Fragcom. So I think again, we discredit, we call them clone houses. And we had this debate, talking before, me and D4, shout out to D4G Fragrance. I'm like, if we gonna keep it a buck, Lattafa is a niche house. Our mouth is a niche by definition.
By definition.
Yeah.
But and also not even trying to say technically by definition, Lattafa in the Middle East started out selling different fragrances than what was popular over in the West.
Right.
Because Lattafa does have unique fragrances that sell better in the Middle East.
Correct.
And they have different lines. But the way that they got prominence in the United States was their clone line.
Right. So that's the same. That's them. Afnan are all of them. Like, and it's crazy. It's weird because we'll say Lattafa has a niche brand. No, like Lattafa is niche.
Yeah.
Like our mouth is niche, but that ruffles feathers.
Man, you gonna blow the chat up, Walt.
I really don't care. Like people know, y'all know where to come see me at. I told people about this in Fragcom. People switch up depending on whose live chat they in, so it's cool.
That's a fact.
Somebody gonna be
Talk
live
heavy.
later. Somebody gonna be live tomorrow, and they gonna be capping in line all over again. But folks know I hold everybody accountable. Nonetheless, if we gonna keep by definition, they're niche companies. But to your point, we don't even have a clue. Shout out to Anib, who is giving us this picture into what is going on in the Middle East at such a high rate where nobody else has been able to do. Because again, over here in the US, North America, we, I'm not gonna say we think everything revolves around us, but we'd be like, we only have this going on. And it's like, a lot of these people don't even wear what we wear over there, So again, if you're going to experience fragrance. But like I said, I know that ruffles feathers. I know somebody gonna be like, I can't believe this man just said Lattafa is niche. By definition, it is a niche brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they can I think that what the question you asked, Charm, already exists, and you explain why the popularity is different because we focus on this while the brand itself, where it's based at HQ, it's like, nah, we have plenty of original fragrance. We just push what y'all like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely a thing. So I have friends that are Middle Eastern, and that's how
Jason.
Because when we go, when we go into the last question is one fragrance for life. My one fragrance for life right now would be Al Qurashi Blend by Abdul Samad Al Qurashi. Now that is actually an OG fragrance that Boadicea copied and made Blue Sapphire.
But nobody will say anything about that, Charm.
And that's because Boadicea is more well known over in the United States. However, I found that fragrance out because of a Middle Eastern friend that I had. And that's how I ended up getting it. I got it from Kuwait. So in that way, I have a different kind of respect for some Middle Eastern brands and things like that because I found that out before I even knew about Blue Sapphire. And I had it before I even knew about Blue Sapphire. And so in that light, it's just different. But now they really aren't what you would call inspirations. They have all original fragrances. But if that was a fragrance for life right now, that is my favorite fragrance and the one I wear the most. And if I had one fragrance to just go to, that would be it. Man, but I'll take it to the last question to everybody else. If you just have one fragrance, we already know what suits one fragrance, but we'll let him say first. You gotta say it right.
Diaghilev.
There you go. So, Finesse, if you just had one fragrance for life, what would it be?
La Mer Le Parfum. It's the first fragrance video I ever made. That's me.
For nostalgia reasons.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. First video on the channel. That's it. If I had to look at everything else, I'm gonna keep coming back to that. Yeah.
Got it. Meech.
I would probably say because of the versatility, I know I can wear it anytime, any place, any occasion. I would say Bleu de Chanel Parfum specifically.
BDC Parfums. Okay. Got it.
Go.
Let's go up, stay up at the top. Gator.
Man, I was sitting here trying to hide, bro. Because I literally, bro, because I sat here, because I had somebody ask me this question the other day and it broke my brain. Like, it literally broke my brain because I was sitting there like, if I had to get rid of all of these and only keep one, and I literally was fighting back and forth in my brain of which one I would keep, because I was like, I would want to keep all of them. I would try to rig the game. Like literally try to rig the game. If I had to like pick one, I would have to try to pick two, but no. I think if I had to pick one, it would have to be yeah. Cause I'm thinking I'm almost like Beach with the BDC Parfum, but oh man, Narciso Rodriguez Blue Noir Parfum. Because that was for the reason that Walt gave. It was the very first video that I did on my channel, and it does hold a special spot to me, man. So yeah,
man, that's my favorite Iris fragrance. That's one of the ones for me. I love it.
Twist that they put on the blue fragrance, I really like.
Yeah.
So Rodriguez is a really cool house. Really cool house.
Incredible.
The scent bubble.
Hey, I am a vetiver lover to the death of me. I do not care what you think. I'm vetiver all dang day. My favorite, nope. My favorite of all time island fragrance is Vetiver Sensual.
Oh, okay.
I knew you were going there.
That's one of the ones too.
Hold me hostage. I could care less. We're gonna be just fine over here.
Nice. Vetiver Sensual is a great fragrance.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I am really, really honored that you guys came on the channel.
Broke the internet, guy.
We streamed to a whole lot of places. We got up to 200 people at the same time streaming on all of our platforms. I'm really, really elated that we were able to put this topic together. I'm a person that likes to research and put things together. We will definitely have another one because I like talking about fragrances. That's where I'm at. But I really like the interaction. I like that we had some great perspectives on things, and this is definitely not the last time we'll get everybody together. I will be reaching out to you guys, and we'll see what else we can do. But I'm going to get more like this. So we got Jason talking and everything. I'm going to get more talking points because I enjoy talking about the experience of an olfactory experience of fragrances, but I also enjoy talking about the things that we are involved with in the fragrance community. I think if all that you're talking about is new fragrances and how this smells every time, then you're really limiting what we need to come together for as a community. And I think this is part of some of the things that we need to know. It shouldn't be, I mean, our nation is polarized as it is, especially if you're talking about politics or Democrat or Republican or so many things that we look to separate ourselves from. And in actuality, we are a very small microcosm of the United States of fragrance people that enjoy fragrances at the point that we do. And I really think there's a lot more that we can talk about and figure out ways that we can come together, even though there are a lot of different opinions. We all subjectively have an opinion, but there's so much that even in this kind of talk, we can all come together about. And I really enjoyed it. It's been a long time since I've been on 2.5 hours on a live, and I appreciate it. I definitely do. So I'm thanking everybody for coming on.
Appreciate you,
man. Thanks for having us, man. I definitely appreciate it, man. Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah,
definitely.
Respect to all you guys, man. I've watched all of you guys' videos. You guys do a great job. You guys are good for the space. So continue doing what you're doing, guys. Much respect.
Most of.
Everybody, so if you are not subscribed to any of the people on the panel, please check them out. As Sue says, before you make a decision, look at some of the other shows and videos, and then make a decision on what you think. Because if you do that, we get paid.
Hey.
Everybody check them out. This was a great discussion. I enjoyed everybody's perspective on it. I'm going to put everybody in backstage, but just stay on 1 second. We're going to go out with the song, and then I will talk to everybody in a second. So let's start the theme song for the Fragrance Connoisseur.
Can I sniff it? Yes, you can. 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 On. Can I sniff it? To all the people who like frags like Charm City does. Made this track so you really know what live was. Come together over fragrances. That's the why, cuz getting love and support from the vibers. Put your sense of the day to chat, cuz no wrong sense where whatever and for just because. Positivity and love with a live hug. A life full of fragrance is what I love. Finding hidden gems from Dior to Roja Dove. Negativity and fighting is what we're above. Try to diss, we throw up the hand with a big shrug. Like a card of positives, it's a plus love. If you wanna cause drama, won't even think of us. The connoisseurs fly high like a dove. Can I sniff it? Yes, you can. 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 Can I sniff it? With my frags that I can spray in layers. A connoisseur, but also a poem sayer. At times a live studio purveyor. Won't choke you out, but not a sissy sprayer. Hit the like, you'll be doing us a really big favor. Subscribe if this track has a lot of flavor. Rest in peace, Fife Dog, who's resting with our savior. Follow us for the fragrance behavior. Make a note of the fragrances we gave you, one by one, or apply them in layers. Do you like the fragrances we share? Keep an open mind, don't be a naysayer. Find some new frags that you can savor. Doesn't matter if you're minor or major. From niche to designer, we're the player. As you inhale like a breath of fresh air.